subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Might be a little dangerous. After eating and drinking, after Su Mo and Paimon finished washing, after more than a month of trekking, the three people did not have the energy to continue the late-night conversation and went to sleep directly. The two quilts were covered separately, and Paimon was in the middle. In addition to the trust in Su Mo, Ing was still very relieved about this. In the misty space, the three Su Mos from the worlds of Godslayer, Fairy Tale, and Dicuo were discussing the next plan. What do you think of my idea? Su Mo from the world of Dicuo looked at the other two and asked, usurping the power of the moon goddess, let alone the difficulty, the harvest is indeed good. Su Mo from the world of Godslayer nodded. He was very impressed with the power of Artemis. The gods of the world of Dicuo rarely really show their strength. Among them, the most obvious power is the power of Artemis. Just by usurping her divine power, Andares could directly construct a large magic circle comparable to the size of the moon. A well-prepared attack could even destroy the world. Chapter 69, Make the Underground City Uneasy and Riot. This is still simply using divine power. It did not display its power when using the divine weapon, Orion's arrow. If used together with this divine weapon, the power of that arrow would probably be even more terrifying. Even breaking the planet is not impossible. But the question is, how can we obtain the divine power of Artemis? Su Mo from the God-Killer world pointed out the key. You can gain power by killing gods. This setting is based on my Pandora Dark Sacrifice. This is a great magic that uses the sacred tool Ring of Usurpation as its core and uses the power of the defeated gods as sacrifices to gain power for humans. And the effectiveness of this magic is limited to my world. In your world, even if you kill the god Apollo, you will not gain power. The god-slaying ritual was instigated by Pandora in this different world that even Pandora can't see. No matter how many gods are killed, it is of no use. As for why Su Mo mentioned Apollo, mainly because apart from this god, the other gods in Dicuo are also okay, and they are not so annoying that people want to get rid of them. Only Apollo is gay. Even if he is killed, no one will care. That's why I took him as an example. Hearing the words of God-Killer Su Mo, who was in another world, shook his head. I didn't originally plan to use such an extreme method. Artemis is Hestia's good friend after all. How could I attack her just because of this little power? For ordinary people, the power of the moon god may indeed not be called a little bit. But for Su Mo, if you want to obtain the power of the moon god, there is more than one way. Naturally, he would not attack Artemis for something that could be replaced. I just thought, since even a monster like Andares can absorb Artemis's divine power, there's no reason why we can't do it, right? He spoke his true thoughts, although now, Su Mo still hasn't found a way to absorb divine power. But he doesn't think this can be difficult for him. In other words, he thought Su Mo from other worlds might have good ideas. I have to say, Su Mo, who lives in the wrong world, has the right idea. After hearing what he said, Su Mo from the fairy tale world spoke immediately. Listen to what you say. I have an idea. What can I do? Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, asked with surprise on his face. He also didn't expect that he in other worlds would be so powerful. To be able to give the answer so quickly? It's very simple. Su Mo from the fairy tale world said, since the monster Andares has the power to absorb the divine power of Artemis, then we don't need to study how it does it. Just copy the homework. That is to say, at this point, the other two Su Mo were at a loss. Yes, receive magic. Su Mo, who was in another world, was so excited that he patted his thigh. How could I forget this? If I use receiving magic to transform into Andares, I can also absorb the divine power of the moon god. Of course he can do what monsters can do, get money and love. The only problem is, Andares is a bit ugly, which doesn't suit my handsome temperament. Su Mo hesitated. Su Mo from the God-Killer world heard this and glanced at him speechlessly. Those who do great things do not stick to trivial matters. for the power of the moon god. He just transformed into the monster Andares. A monster, no matter how ugly it is, can be as ugly as his weight. It seems really hard to watch. I remembered that this scorpion does not look like a scorpion, and this octopus does not look like an octopus. It seems to have an ugly look with tentacles. He was silent for 2 seconds, and then patted Dicuo Su Mo Kyo on the shoulder. I agree with you on this point. Andalis is too ugly. Indeed, our Sumo's handsome temperament must not be destroyed by such an ugly monster. Su Mo in the fairy tale world also remembered Andares' appearance. He nodded in understanding. Whether it is strong or not is a matter of version. Handsome or not, it's a matter of life. Don't make a hasty decision. 079, the newbie's resistance, after unanimously refusing to transform into such an ugly monster. Several people didn't come up with any other good ideas. It can only be put aside temporarily. Anyway, it's still early before Artemis encounters the monster Andares. They can completely wait for Su Mo in other worlds to see if he has any new methods. When it really doesn't work, you can also consider whether it's worth it to transform into Andalis. With so many paths to choose from, they weren't too impatient. After Su Mo on Dicuo's side finished talking about his situation, Su Mo from the fairy tale world also spoke. I've basically learned how to receive magic. Although it's not very sophisticated, there's no problem in using it in combat. For receiving magic, the difficulty lies in receiving the new form, and in mastering and developing the power of the new form. As for the reception itself, there is nothing particularly difficult about it. Su Mo practiced for less than a week and basically mastered it. However, word magic is more complicated than I thought, and it does take some time to learn it. The composition of text magic is relatively complicated, and it requires high control over magic power. In terms of learning this magic, Su Mo was not as fast as he was in learning to receive magic. Up to now, it is only possible to use three-dimensional text initially. As for high-level content such as making up spells and rewriting spells, it is not something that can be mastered in a short time. That's fast enough. Su Mo in the God Killer world is very satisfied with the speed at which Su Mo in the fairy tale world learns magic. Speaking of text magic, some of the gods here should be able to write runes. If there is a chance, I will see if I can obtain the relevant powers. The power of writing, I feel like there should be something in common. In fact, the powers of many gods themselves are related to rune characters. If I could one day completely analyze this kind of text, maybe you can have the power to make up your own powers. Rune characters, that's up to you. Su Mo from the fairy tale world didn't refuse either. Although he chose to learn word magic, he doesn't like to fight to the death. If the progress here is slow, you can also learn other magic. Anyway, for him, these magics are just a means. Mastery through power is also a kind of mastery. No problem. Su Mo from the God Killer world nodded. I have nothing to say for the time being. I heard from Erica and the others that the King of Swords is coming to fight me, and they are currently waiting for him. King of Swords Tony? Su Mo from the fairy tale world showed a look of pity when he heard this. A character who must be beaten by time travelers. This guy is so miserable, but with this guy's character. Indeed, he could not escape a severe beating. The reason why you are waiting for the King of Swords is not just because you want to have a fight, right? Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, touched his chin and seemed to see something. I guess you want to take this opportunity to place a bet and get all the female knights like Erica Liliana to come to your side, right? Although Su Mo is not a character who can't afford to be early without profit. But waiting for that fool's sword must have some purpose. Apart from the two girl knights, he didn't think there was anything else worthy of the God Killer Su Mo Chapter 70 Ahem. Hearing the straightforward words of Dicuo Su Mo Godslayer, Su Mo cleared his throat and rolled his eyes at him. Don't make me sound like a bad guy. I want Erica and Liliana for the purpose of killing gods better and gaining more power to share with everyone. As for collecting beautiful girls, it's just the insignificant reward I get when I contribute to everyone. I'm doing this for your own good, Su Mo from the Godslayer world said earnestly. It looks like that. It's a pity that everyone present is Su Mo, who can't see his thoughts. I almost believed it. Su Mo from the Dicuo world couldn't help but complain. I really believed it. After, Su Mo from the fairy tale world said seriously. In this regard, he is the same as Su Mo from the Godslayer world. Did he learn magic to get in touch with Levi? Of course not. He just wanted to become stronger and then accidentally attracted beautiful girls. He was also very distressed about this. Just when these three inhuman guys finished their business and started chatting, Dicuo Su Mo suddenly noticed. In the fog at the edge of the square, there was a shadowy figure. "Hey, is it a newcomer?" he immediately said. The other two turned around and saw the figure in the fog, and it seemed that they heard the voice here. After hesitating for a while, this figure stepped out of the fog. After confirming the eyes, this must be a newcomer. The three Su Mo looked at each other, and then, at the same time, they put their hands on the newcomer. "What are you doing?" Just after leaving the weird foggy space, I saw several people with very familiar faces attacking me, although I didn't detect any malice. But the newcomer Su Mo is not someone who will easily believe in intuition. With a flash, the newcomer Su Mo directly avoided the hands of the three people. Then, he looked at the three guys with a vigilant face. "If you don't want to die, explain to me first, FCK. He realized halfway through that the people in front of him looked exactly like him. "Brother Sumo es plan." He blurted out in surprise. At this moment, the other three Sumos missed their shots and began to use their real skills. One turned into light, one carried the wings of the storm, and one used magic to strengthen his body. "Don't try to resist. You have a strong personality. I like this." The three of them said lines that people couldn't complain about. A slap hit the stunned newcomer on the shoulder. If you don't know, you might think that a bad boy is teasing a good girl. After being hit, the newcomer Su Mo was stunned. Only then did he understand what happened and realize that the people in front of him were all himself. He couldn't help but roll his eyes at these guys. Sharing is sharing. Why are you guys reciting such messed up lines? He was startled and thought he had met a gay. Just liven up the atmosphere. Su Mo from the Godslayer world chuckled. "Who told you to resist so fiercely?" Su Mo from the earthly world spread his hands, looking helpless. "I just followed the formation subconsciously." Su Mo from the fairy tale world covered his face. Damn, why do they have such a good relationship at this time of sand sculpture? They basically understood each other's meaning in seconds. Could it be that the nature of them, the Su Mo people, is sand sculpture? This is impossible. They should be handsome by nature. 080 Magical Index World, psychic after playing around. The newcomer Su Mo exclaimed excitedly. 20 years, 20 years. Do you know how I got through these 20 years? It took so long to come to the golden finger. I almost thought I had no hope. Unexpectedly, God did not give up on me. Sure enough, it must be because my soul was too dazzling. Seeing the newcomer's excited expression, the other Su Mo looked at each other with doubt in their eyes. "Your reaction is too exaggerated," Su Mo from the Godslayer world asked. "I can feel that the power in your body is pretty good. With this level of power, if you are not invincible, you should not be in a bad situation, right?" The other Su Mo also nodded. After sharing the power of the newcomer Su Mo, although they did not check in detail what kind of power they had. However, they could also perceive the scale of the newcomer's power. In general, the power possessed by the newcomer should not be less than that of a Saint 10-level wizard. Even if such power is not the strongest, it can always be in a good situation in the ordinary world, right? It should not be said that there is no hope. Seeing the doubtful expressions of the other Su Mo, the newcomer Su Mo shook his head and sighed. "Don't talk about my power. Even if I merge your powers, even if I have the power of Ultraman Tiga, in my world, I am far from being invincible. If we face the final boss with our current strength, we won't even be qualified to step onto the stage of the final battle." These words of the newcomer, the Su Mo people were immediately shocked. Not even Ultraman Tiga's power can make it to the stage of the decisive battle? This is too incredible. Even if the current Ultraman Tiga has not developed the strongest shining form, with the power of the current Corona form, exploding stars is not difficult. What kind of world could be so dangerous? Not even qualified to step onto the stage of a decisive battle with explosive star-level combat power? What world are you traveling through? Su Mo from the fairy tale world couldn't help but ask. Into this. Newcomer Su Mo doesn't show off either. A certain magical index. The Forbidden World. Hearing what he said, Su Mo couldn't help but be stunned. The world of a certain magical index. This is one of the famous deep water areas. In the seemingly ordinary world, there are not only all kinds of magicians and people with superpowers. Above this, there are even demon-level beings. The demon is powerful enough to destroy the universe with one hand. The world can be rewritten at will. The universe is just a plaything in its hands. Even in the infinite dimensional world, there are not many places that are scarier than the Forbidden World. No wonder the newcomer looks like this. If it were me, I would probably be desperate. Su Mo from the God-Killer world nodded, as if understanding. Originally, he thought the newcomer Su Mo's strength was quite good. Chapter 71, however, if placed in a magical index world, the power of the newcomers can only be a little bit impressive in the early stage. When it comes to dealing with the right flame in the later stage, it is already difficult enough. It is estimated that they can only play auxiliary at the edge. And later, when it comes to dealing with the demon god One-Eyed Princess, with their current strength, there is really no way to step onto the stage of formal battle, compared with the crisis faced by the magical index world. The last big boss that the Tiga world has to face, Katangia, is nothing. Just when he was about to comfort the newcomer Su Mo, wait. Su Mo of the earthly world remembered something. His expression suddenly changed. He became a little panicked. Did you forget one thing? The special setting of the magical index world, if a superpower uses magic, it will be backfired or even self-destruct. Hearing the words of Su Mo in the fairy tale world, Godslayer Su Mo was suddenly shocked. Fuck, we won't pit ourselves. He panicked immediately. In theory, as long as the superpower does not use magic, there will be no problem. But for him, the power of the god of disobedience is an extremely important power. If he can't use any other magical power just because he has shared the superpowers of the newcomer, then he will lose a lot. Just when the two of them were a little panicked, Su Mo of the fairy tale world shook his head calmly. Don't worry, we should be fine. As he said that, he stretched out his right hand. A translucent, golden magic circle appeared on his right hand, shining with bright light, illuminating the surrounding area. This is a simple lighting magic. If according to the rules of the magical index world, Su Mo, who has shared superpowers, cannot use magic. However, now, there is nothing wrong with the body of fairy tale Su Mo. Let alone backlash, there is no injury on the body at all, and no discomfort. Huh? Zero, please give me flowers. Zero, Godslayer Su Mo was stunned. Then he tried it immediately. He mobilized the curse power in his body and immediately summoned lightning. Ziz is easy. The blue-purple lightning wrapped around his body, and the violent lightning snake was as tame as a puppy. Is it really okay? He showed a surprised expression and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there is no problem. Otherwise, it would be a big loss this time. In the magic world, the reason why psychics cannot use magic is mainly because of phase friction. Su Mo from the fairy tale world explained. It's not that the ability of the scientific side and the magic side are really mutually exclusive. After all, in the final analysis, the superpowers of the magic world are actually just a kind of magic. In our world, there is also this foggy space, and there is no phase setting, so of course there will be no problem. As a wizard, although it is not the same system as the magic of the magic, Su Mo from the fairy tale world still knows about it. After saying that, he looked at the newcomer Su Mo, or Su Mo from the magic world. Should be like this? He asked as if to confirm. Hearing the explanation of Su Mo from fairy tale Su Mo, a newcomer in the magic index world, nodded, then shook his head. You're right, but not completely. Oh, is there any other secret? Su Mo in the fairy tale world was a little curious. The magic of the two worlds is completely different. He only knew a little bit of information from the original work before crossing. Compared with the information he heard from others, Su Mo, a local of the magic index, must have a deeper understanding. Feel it carefully. Su Mo of the magic index smiled slightly. The ability I share with you is not just superpowers. He said so. Su Mo in the Godslayer world immediately closed his eyes and explored. Sure enough, in addition to superpowers, There's actually a lot of magic knowledge. You use magic and superpowers at the same time? Su Mo in the Godslayer world was stunned. And both abilities have reached this depth. How did you survive until now? Although it is a bit rude to ask this question, but it can express his feelings very well. According to the setting of the Magic Index world, cultivating both magic and superpowers will basically lead to death. Even if you don't die, you will most likely become a useless person like Tsuchimikado Motoharu, who can't easily use both abilities. How did this newcomer do this? Only then. 081 Here comes Su Mo, a domineering god. Ahem. Hearing the question of Godslayer, Su Mo of the Magical Index world cleared his throat. Just when others thought he was going to say something secret, Su Mo of the Magical Index world spread his hands. Actually, I don't know why I can use two powers at the same time. But now, I seem to have some clues. Hearing this, Su Mo of the fairy tale world keenly realized what he meant. Are you trying to say that your use of two powers at the same time is related to our crossing? That's right. Su Mo of the Magical Index world nodded. I want to ask you a question. So far, we have shared so many powers. The magic and magic of the fairy tale world, the cursed power and power of the Godslayer world, the grace of God in the world of Jigo, the light giant of the world of Tiga, and my magic and superpowers. Let's not talk about the power of Ultraman Tiga of the transformation system. Just the magic of different worlds is not a system at all. Although they are all magic, whether it is the operation route, storage method, or the nature of the magic itself, these are completely different. Logically speaking, if so many powers are combined, even if they don't collapse, they will merge, right? The methods of extracting magic from different worlds and the paths of magic operation, some are even completely opposite. If there are really so many different magic systems in our bodies operating at the same time, we would have exploded and died directly because of the magic turbulence. But why? We are running different energies at the same time, but we don't feel these conflicts at all? After this question was raised, Su Mo and others immediately fell into deep thought. I have also thought about this question. After a moment, Su Mo from the fairy tale world replied, originally, I thought that the power we shared was completely integrated. That's why we can mobilize the Godslayer's cursed power to use fairy tale's magic, or vice versa. But after a careful feeling, I found that it was not the case. If the power in our bodies is really completely integrated, the cursed power and magic power should be fixed to one running route after the fusion. But in fact, when I use magic, I can really choose the two routes of cursed power and magic power at will. Even, I can run two sets of contradictory routes at the same time. It's just like I have two magical circuits in my body that overlap but don't interfere with each other. It's incredible. When talking about this, Su Mo from the fairy tale world was also surprised. The power of different worlds overlaps perfectly, and they can not only not interfere with each other, but also call each other. It's amazing. Yes, that's what I want to say. Su Mo from the Magical Index world said seriously. Chapter 72. Although the specific principle is unclear, we may be able to draw a temporary conclusion based on the current situation. Our physical condition after crossing is very special. Even if the power that originally repelled and conflicted each other, after we mastered it, they would coexist peacefully. Originally, I thought that I could use superpowers and magic at the same time, which was the golden finger after I crossed over. After arriving here, I found that this is very likely just a characteristic that all Su Mo have after we crossed over. It is precisely because of this characteristic. He can master two conflicting powers at the same time. So that's it. Su Mo in the world of God's Slayer suddenly realized. If this is the case, it can indeed explain the state after they share power. But how did you find this out? He asked curiously. Normal people, after knowing that superpowers and magic are incompatible, they will definitely not try rashly. Especially cautious as himself. Su Mo in the world of God's Slayer is very curious. Why himself in the world of Magic Index is so suicidal. Knowing that the two are incompatible, he still wants to try both powers. And most importantly, where did you learn your magic? The magic in the world of Magical Index is not something that is commonplace. At least, there is no possibility of exposure to it on the surface. Compared to that, the superpowers of Academy City only require children of appropriate age to enter and obtain them. In the world of Magical Index, it is not a simple matter to want to learn magic. The magic forces in the world of Magical Index will not accept outsiders so easily. Heard the question of Su Mo from the world of Godkiller. Ahem. Magic Index, Su Mo cleared his throat. Then he drew a cross on his chest, looked at the Godkiller Su Mo in front of him with loving eyes. May the Lord deceive you. Lost lamb, I am your father. Amen. Godkiller Su Mo couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. I am you. You are me. Taking advantage of me is taking advantage of yourself. You want to be my dad. The final result can only be that I am also your dad. It's not like he doesn't understand religious terms. Priest is translated as dad, so he certainly knows this. That is to say, if you want to be his dad, then we are your dad. Su Mo of the Dicuo world complained. Everyone is a dad to each other. This is probably what it means. Huh. Su Mo of the Magic Index world shook his head with some amusement. I almost forgot about this. We are all the same person. But I suddenly said this, not to take advantage of you. I am really a priest. What? Su Mo of the Dicuo world was shocked when he heard this. I didn't expect that you, a man with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would betray materialism and run over to be a charlatan, although he himself became a follower of the gods. But Su Mo of the Dicuo world does not believe in the goddess Hestia. On the contrary, his thoughts belong to the type of blasphemy. As a follower of the gods, he thinks about rushing to the gods all day long, which is unique. However, anyone who knows that their god is a cute little girl with a childlike face, Marshmallow, will probably have the idea of rebelling against the superior. After all, the nature of human beings is LSP. I can't help it. Su Mo of the Magical Index world spread his hands. As soon as I crossed over, I found myself as a reserve magician of the Roman Orthodox Church. That environment doesn't allow you to make other choices. He naturally doesn't believe in God. Of course, if God is a little girl, he might consider it. The reason why he became a priest is just because he has no choice. The Roman Orthodox Church is one of the largest religious forces in the Magical Index world. In the early days when the demon god did not appear, this force could be said to be the largest hostile force in Academy City. The villain organization of God's right seat is a member of the Roman Orthodox Church. Of course, later the leader of this organization, the Right Fire, he rebelled against the superior and got rid of the Pope who originally had the highest status, which is another matter. It's not a bad thing to cross over to the Roman Orthodox Church. Su Mo of the fairy tale world nodded and analyzed. In the world of Magical Index, although superpowers are more famous. But, according to the setting, superpowers themselves are also a kind of magic. In terms of its upper limit and potential, magic is the strongest thing in the world of Magical Index. The upper limit can even reach the level of the demon god, or even higher. If you can grasp it well, maybe by studying magic, you can become the strongest thigh among us. Said so, Su Mo of the fairy tale world asked puzzledly. So, how did you, a magician of the Roman Orthodox Church, get superpowers? According to the trajectory of Su Mo in Magical Index, shouldn't he be promoted to priest, bishop, and finally counterattack the Pope? Or take the route of the right seed of God, kill a right seed of God, and then take the position? Why did he suddenly run to Academy City? It's not the same line at all, right? Other Su Mo are also curious about this. It seems that the experience of Su Mo in Magical Index seems very complicated. Because I am an undercover and a spy. Su Mo from the Magical Index world spread his hands and said, more than a decade ago, when Academy City and the British Puritan Church just started to hook up, the Roman Orthodox Church was a little panicked, so they sent a group of us to Academy City as undercover agents. I was still young at the time, and my magical talent had not yet been revealed, so I was sent there. Hearing this, Su Mo from the fairy tale world was speechless. The world structure of the Magical Index world is roughly divided into two poles. The Roman Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church are one pole, and the British Puritan Church and Academy City are one level. Puritan Church and Academy City are allied. It is normal for the Roman Orthodox Church to send undercover agents. But the problem is not here. It is the Roman Orthodox Church actually send a level 5 as an undercover agent? Aren't they afraid that you will rebel? Yes. The superpowers possessed by Su Mo from the Magical Index world. According to the estimation of Su Mo from Fairy Tale, it should have reached the level 5. This is already considered one of the leaders in Academy City. Undercover to this level, the probability of surrendering to the enemy is very high 0. At least based on his understanding of himself. Such a shameless person, he can definitely do this. After all, the fact that the Roman Orthodox Church put magicians in Academy City as undercovers is already very inhumane. It's completely sending people to die. There is naturally no psychological pressure to betray such an organization. They didn't expect me to become level 5 before. Su Mo in the Magical Index world shook his head. To be honest, even I didn't expect this. After becoming level 5, I was indeed ready to surrender to the enemy. After all, even if a superpower learns magic, as long as he doesn't use it, he won't be backfired. So, instead of following the Roman Orthodox Church with no future, it's better to follow the upside-down bald man in Academy City. Just when I was thinking about this, I accidentally tried the simplest magic, based on the injuries of Tsuchimikado Motoharu in the original work. That level of magic can only make me a little injured at most. However, after trying it, I suddenly found that the side effects of using magic seemed to be completely non-existent on me. There is no need to say more about what happened next. Su Mo, in the world of Magical Index, embarked on the path of practicing both superpowers and magic. Because I am level 5, the resources provided by Academy City are sufficient for me. The Roman Orthodox Church wants to win me over, so the price they paid is even higher. Chapter 73, by taking this opportunity, I gained a lot of magical knowledge for nothing. As an undercover agent, playing both ends is a basic skill. Su Mo from the Forbidden World knows this well. Therefore, it is possible to accumulate the strength that appears now. It seems that you are working very hard too. Su Mo from the God-Killer world patted him on the shoulder. Although magic forbidden, Su Mo said it lightly. But is it so easy to be an undercover agent? What's more, in Su Mo's world, there was a time bomb like the devil. Want to solve this problem? The difficulty is too high. Well, originally I thought there was no hope. Su Mo from the Forbidden World shook his head. However, after meeting you, I suddenly felt that I could still struggle. It would be great if we could have a multiverse-level Su Mo sometime, such as the leaked domineering god Su Mo, or some inner-universe saint. If I could have this kind of power, I would just take One-Eye Hind back and warmer bed. Magic forbidden, Su Mo said with some longing. If that were the case, you wouldn't have to work hard at all. Regarding his idea, go to sleep. There is everything in your dreams. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, looked at him speechlessly. He also hoped that such an invincible Su Mo would appear. It's a pity that even if other Su Mo travels to that kind of world, without adventure, it would be difficult to reach the highest level. 3.0, instead of thinking about these low-probability events, it's better to think about how to improve the existing combat power. Speaking of which, you mentioned Brother Sumo's plan before? What the hell is that? I remembered what Su Mo, the Forbidden One, said before. It's wrong, Su Mo couldn't help complaining. Could it be that you also have clones? Academy City is the most famous clone. Of course, it's the Misaka sisters. The tragic fate of Miss Misaka, who was made as an experimental subject, made many people aggrieved. When it comes to Miss Misaka's plan, it is naturally very cruel and inhumane. Thinking of the words of Su Mo, the Forbidden One, Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, couldn't help but care about this. To this, of course, there is no such thing. Su Mo from the Forbidden World explained in a funny way. I'm not someone like Misaka Makoto, who lives purely on the bright side. If anyone dares to be my clone in Academy City, they will definitely be impatient. Not to mention, they can't get my physical data at all. Su Mo in the Forbidden World behaves very cautiously. Normal physical examinations and ability development are also carried out in the hospital where Netherworld Chion is located. When checking at this place, You don't have to worry about your data being leaked. I said that before, but I was just shocked by you. I just came to this strange place. I saw several guys who looked exactly like me. Su Mo in the Forbidden World immediately thought of the human cloning plan. I thought someone wanted to clone me. Fortunately, this is not the case. Otherwise, in the dark side of Academy City, there might be a bloody storm. 080 to 103,000 magic books and the fall of angels after roughly understanding the newcomer's experience. The Su Mo people discovered that they faced yet another challenge. The first one is Gitanji in the world of Tiga. The second one is the demon god in the current Forbidden World. Speaking of which, with the current strength alone, it is not hopeless to face the devil. After pondering for a while, Su Mo from the fairy tale world analyzed it. Then he asked other Su Mo, "Do you still remember the heroine of the Forbidden World?" The forbidden heroine? Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, thought for a moment. "Are you talking about Sister Pao?" "No, I think it's Kanzaki Kaori. After all, she's been there for all the big events." Su Mo from the God Killer world shook his head. "Why do I think it's Teacher Xiaoming? Teacher Xiaoming is so cute." I saw a few people joking. Su Mo from the Forbidden World also started making noises. "Hey, Teacher Xiaoming." Hearing what he said, Su Mo from the God Killer world immediately looked like he wanted to call the police. People can't. At least they shouldn't. Teacher Xiaoming's body type is not even considered a Lolita. She should be classified as a 05 to young girl. Simply put, this is a character that, like Paimon, can be regulated independently. But Teacher Xiaoming is already an adult. Su Mo from the Forbidden World said plausibly. "I think people can do it, at least try. Otherwise, we can't just watch Teacher Xiaoming die alone like this, right? For the future of Teacher Xiaoming, I would rather bear the slanderous words of a lolicon." Hear this. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, couldn't help but complain with empty eyes. "Is this a slanderous word? Why do I think it is true?" On the side, listening to their words. Fairy tale, Su Mo couldn't help but cover his face. "You guys are really enough. If Index hears what you say, she will probably cry." A certain magical index is obviously Index's name. Even if she doesn't have enough sense of existence, you won't even mention her at all. The protagonist of the Toru Kagaku no Soken series is undoubtedly Misaka Makoto. The heroine of the Toru Majitsu no Index series is, of course, Index. Although she is not present in every major event due to her lack of presence, and has never played a big role, she has always been criticized for not being like a heroine. However, her status is not controversial. After all, the name of this series is taken from Index's name. The term "a certain magical index" refers to Index herself. Hearing the complaints of Su Mo from the fairy tale world, the other Su Mos laughed and stopped persecuting Index, the miserable foodie nun. "I understand what you mean. You want me to get the 103,000 magic books." Su Mo from the Toru Majitsu no Index said seriously. "That's right." Su Mo from the fairy tale world nodded. "Even if there are forgeries and counterfeits of the original 103,000 magic books, their value is still unquestionable. I remember there seems to be a saying in the original book. Those who can fully master the 103,000 magic books can become a magic god. Whether this statement is true or not, let's not consider it for now. In short, if we can obtain the knowledge of these magic books, our strength will definitely be greatly improved." Hearing his words, the other Su Mo also agreed. The knowledge of 103,000 magic books should not be underestimated, although it may not be a big deal for a magic god. But for other magicians, it is a treasure. Your statement does make sense. Su Mo of the Magical Index world nodded. "I've also thought about the idea of playing these magic books, but it's just a thought. Considering the toxicity of the magic books, with my mental strength at the time, I am afraid I can't finish reading a few magic books. The magic books in the Magical Index world have a very important setting. Chapter 74, that is, magic knowledge is toxic. The purer the magic knowledge contained in the magic book, the more toxic it is. Ordinary people have almost no ability to read the original text of the magic book. The moment they see it, they may become idiots. Even well-trained high-level magicians cannot read too many original texts of magic books. In other words, Reading 103,000 magic books is an impossible task. Of course, the stronger the magician, the more content he can see. But there is a limit after all. With Su Mo's original strength, he can only read a few magic books at most. Moreover, he is not sure whether what he reads is the original or a fake. Compared with the risk, the benefit is too small. So he didn't take this matter too seriously. But now, with the fog space, the situation is different. After sharing your physique and spirit, I think with my current tolerance, it should be no problem to read dozens of magic books. Su Mo in the magic world touched his chin and estimated. If that's the case, the value of these magic books will be greatly increased. There must be an authentic one among dozens of magic books. And even if there is none, when the Su Mo from other worlds gather one after another, his tolerance for magic books will increase even more. Keep going like this. Sooner or later, I will be able to read all 103,000 magic books. By that time, even if I can't reach the level of a demon god, I shouldn't be too far behind. It seems that we can try to plan it. After thinking carefully, Su Mo felt that this thing seemed feasible. In addition to the magic books, there is another thing that may be useful. After talking about the magic books, Su Mo in the fairy tale world remembered another thing. I remember that there was an event called Angel Fall in your world, right? Indeed, Su Mo in the Magic Index world nodded. Angel Fall is a magic that can forcibly pull an angel from a higher position to a lower position. In the original work, this accidental great magic once pulled Gabriel down from the sky. Although it was not the real body that descended to the mortal world, but Gabriel's power was indeed pulled down. If we plan this matter and use the receiving magic to forcibly receive Gabriel's divine power, we may be able to deprive Gabriel of his power. Su Mo of the fairy tale world suggested. Gabriel in the Magic Index world, even if it is a broken version, has enough power to cleanse the surface of the earth. Getting her power should be no worse than the power of the God Slayer. Hearing this suggestion, Su Mo of the Magic Index pondered for a while. Well, the magic of the angel falling is sporadic and cannot be controlled. If it is still replaced in the way of the original work, it feels a bit difficult to receive Gabriel's divine power. But it is not completely impossible. This suggestion is very interesting. Unfortunately, it is not so easy to receive the power of angels. He needs to study the possibilities before he can know the answer. 083 Anorectal Doctor. No way compared to the power of capturing Gabriel. It is easier to deal with Index, the foodie. After making up his mind, Su Mo finally prepared to intervene in Index's affairs. After communicating with several people from other worlds, everyone was about to disband. At this moment, there was movement in the foggy space again. Huh? Is it a newcomer again? Su Mo from the earthly world was very surprised. It is rare for two people to come in such a short time. Of course, he himself has not been here for long. It should be. Su Mo from the God Slayer world analyzed. If it is an old man, he must have come directly. Only newcomers, suddenly facing this environment, will have a period of discomfort. His analysis was indeed correct. After more than half a minute, the newcomer Su Mo appeared in front of them, with the previous lesson of Su Mo in the Magic Index world. For a moment, everyone hesitated and did not lend a hand as usual, although their physiques should be able to accommodate conflicting forces. But what if they win the prize unexpectedly? So, the four Su Mos looked at the newcomer with their eyes. His slightly messy hair looked like he had been working for a long time. His face was as handsome as theirs, and he looked about 17 or 18 years old. The most distinctive thing was the newcomer's outfit. A very clean white coat. Black frame glasses made him look very intelligent. There was also a pen in his chest pocket. Such a typical outfit reminded Su Mo of the Dicuo world of something. Proctologist? He couldn't help but blurt out. Su Mo of the Magical Index world was speechless when he heard this guess. Why does it have to be a proctologist? He complained loudly. Could it be an orthopedic department? Su Mo of the fairy tale world showed a sly smile on his face. Fortunately, I don't have a sister here, so I don't have to worry about entering the German orthopedic department. You two are so good. The one wearing the white coat doesn't have to be a doctor. Su Mo from the God Killer world complained to the two. After saying that, He turned his head to look at the newcomer. However, there is one thing I want to confirm with the newcomer. Are you really not an anorectal surgeon? Su Mo has great respect for doctors who treat illnesses and save lives. However, his ideological consciousness is still not high enough. Like a little bit of courage to break through the worldly perspective. And the anorectal department just needs that little bit of courage. The newcomer looked at this group of Su Mo. His expression, from surprise to speechlessness to silence, and finally to a dark face. It only took 10 seconds, although I can't figure out what is going on. However, he had already confirmed that the few in front of him were sand sculptures. I ignored the idiot's question in front of me. The newcomer Su Mo calmly looked at the environment. Then, he took a detailed look at the other ones. You actually look exactly like me. Rough transformation. Snort. Then, he sneered and rolled up his sleeves. It seems that he is planning to use some trump cards to deal with this situation. The newcomer seems to have something. See the newcomer's confident posture. Su Mo's eyes lit up in the fairy tale world. Could it be that the newcomer is actually a big guy? It's possible. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, nodded. Chapter 75 suddenly came to this foggy space, and after seeing us, not only did they not ask us questions. On the contrary, his expression is so calm, and he looks confident. It's very possible that the newcomer actually hides some incredible power. Hear their analysis. Very good. Su Mo from the Forbidden World clapped his thigh excitedly. I'm just waiting for a big boss like this. The more people like this, the better. It's best to take me directly to the level of the devil, so that I don't have to worry all day long. I'm just afraid that those demon gods won't suddenly start superimposing phases, changing the world, and so on. For newcomers with strength, Su Mo in the Forbidden World couldn't be more welcome. Under the glaring gazes of several people, newcomer Su Mo rolled up his sleeves, hands on hips. Then, Larilas, save me. Start shouting for help. The four Su Mo fell silent immediately. Where's the big boss? What about the hidden trump card you promised? Did you say it was a thigh? Even if you roar, it would be fine if you perform some medical stunts like 13 needles of Ghostgate. What's the matter with just shouting for help? Come on, everyone, shoulder to shoulder, Su Mo from the Forbidden World said unhappily. To deal with crooked ways, we don't need to talk about loyalty. Okay, X3. His words were echoed by the remaining three people. So, under the newcomer's confused expression, the four of them rushed forward, knocked the new guy down completely. 3 minutes later, the newcomer Su Mo has completely understood the current situation. He couldn't help but grimace. He complained about these guys. You are overthinking it. Can you blame me? It made him think that he had encountered something that even Larilas couldn't solve. I was really a little panicked. Unexpectedly, these idiots were actually me. Who made you look so calm and calm? Su Mo from the Forbidden World rolled his eyes at him, and then sighed. Too bad, I thought you were some unworldly boss. Take off your white coat, and you'll be a flying immortal with a sword or something. Who would have thought that you actually wanted to shout for help? Newcomer Su Mo was speechless. How did I know you were real? I thought it was a ghost-type Pokemon playing a prank. I didn't expect you guys to be my golden fingers. This golden finger came so late. I'm already 17 years old. What's the difference between Goldfinger coming at this time and not coming at all? At this point, he sighed. Hear what he said? Su Mo from the fairy tale world glanced at the newcomer Su Mo. Actually, you can also choose not to use our power. It won't be in the way. Hear the words. The newcomer Su Mo immediately shook his head. What are you talking about? What you say is so unpleasant. We are all Su Mo. Your power is naturally my power. Of course, there is no reason why I should not use my own strength. Although what he said makes sense, but other Su Mo wanted to complain. Newcomers are a bit thick-skinned. Of course, when they say this, they are not looking at themselves in the mirror. Otherwise, they will realize it. After all, they are the same person with exactly the same nature. 084 Pokemon Scientist, I didn't expect the newcomer to come from the Pokemon world. Su Mo from the God Killer world touched his chin. This world is quite interesting. No wonder the newcomers complained that Goldfinger came too late. Pokemon world, also called Pokemon or the world of Pokemon. This is a world dominated by Pokemon. The role of humans in it is more to act as trainers to exercise the combat effectiveness of Pokemon and play against others. It can be said that in this world where Pokemon is the biggest feature, as a human being, the most popular and most coveted profession is probably Pokemon trainer. And Pokemon trainers, usually when they are 10 years old, they have already set off to travel alone. The newcomer is now 17 or 18 years old. It was indeed a bit late to enter the foggy space at this time. However, even so, we can still catch up from behind. Su Mo from the Forbidden World asked curiously. With our current strength, wouldn't it be easy to capture the beast? Even if we don't have the Master Ball, we can just knock the mythical beasts out and take them away. Here's words. Su Mo from Dicuo World also became interested. Yes, he echoed 200. It's time to form a team that can crush the Beast Man. Wouldn't it be beautiful to just beat other trainers with the mythical beasts throughout the whole process and win the championship all the way? Before time travel. While watching anime, Su Mo saw that Xiaoji missed the championship again and again. There was even a time when a male Deus Ex Machina appeared and defeated the protagonist Xiaoji as the champion. Su Mo always wanted to complain. All members of the Divine Beast team? Isn't this bullying the little idiot? Even if he is a hot-blooded idiot, he can't set up such an opponent. However, when he traveled to the Pokemon world himself, their thoughts suddenly changed. Weather team? What kind of weather team? No skills. Just crush the beasts. It's really irritating to see the Beast Man crushing others. But if I have the opportunity to form a team full of beasts, it must be so delicious. Hearing the other Su Mo say this, the Su Mo in the fairy tale world did not respond. Instead, he looked at the newcomer Su Mo, after, curiously. Chapter 76, speaking of which, you're already 17 years old. Didn't you already become a Pokemon trainer and travel when you were a child? How about it? Have you ever won a championship? For myself, who doesn't have a golden finger, what kind of ranking can you get as a trainer in the Pokemon world? Su Mo from the fairy tale world was very curious. Although he knows a lot about Pokemon, but it's just talk on paper. Speaking of which, it is like the academic school in the Pokemon world, which may be better. However, when it comes to actual training, how far can it be achieved? That's not necessarily the case. Even if we don't win the championship, there should be one in the quarterfinals, right? You can't lose to Xiaoji, right? Su Mo does not deny Xiaoji's love for Pokemon. However, it is undeniable that Xiaoji's command level is really impressive. If I traveled through this world, even Xiaoji couldn't win. He really felt that he could bang his head against Tofu. I heard the question from Su Mo in the fairy tale world. Su Mo, who came from the Pokemon world side. Don't talk about champions. I'm not qualified to be a Pokemon trainer at all. Don't even think about traveling or anything like that. Su Mo from the fairy tale world frowned slightly and asked, Is there any shady story here? Hearing Su Mo's words in the elf world, he seemed to notice something. That's right. Su Mo from the elf world nodded. Only those families who have enough money to pay the fees can automatically become a Pokemon trainer at the age of 10 and can directly embark on travel. Otherwise, why do you think Xiaoji and the others can receive you Sanjia as their initial pets? Why can I get free medical treatment and accommodation at the Pokemon Center? Genshin Town is obviously not small, but there are only 3 or 4 children who are qualified to become Pokemon trainers in a year. Why aren't others qualified? Having said this, Su Mo from the elf world sighed. Those things have already been spent for a long time. Even though Xiaoji is a single-parent family, his family is very rich. Generally, real civilians are not qualified to receive the initial Pokemon. Children from ordinary families, even if they want to become Pokemon trainers. Basically, he looks like an insect-catching boy. Training by catching bugs by yourself will only make them hardened. As he spoke, he shook his head regretfully. When we were kids, everyone wanted to be a Pokemon trainer and become a Pokemon master. I thought I would do better than Xiaoji. But in fact, children from ordinary families can, at best, become insect-catching teenagers, not even qualified to participate in the court conference. The gap in this, if you are not really in this world, it is difficult to feel it. Hiss! Is this world so dark? After hearing that Su Mo from the elf world exposed the dark side of the Pokemon world, Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. It just ruins my childhood. To say it's a shady story is actually not even possible. Su Mo from the elf world shook his head. If you don't pay, there will be no corresponding services. It doesn't mean you have done something wrong. However, the most profitable business in the world is basically related to Pokemon. In other words, if children from poor families do not have the opportunity to become Pokemon trainers, they will most likely continue to be poor in the future. This world is basically a state where sons inherit their father's legacy. Very few people can break through the limitations. With that said, Su Mo from the elf world patted the white coat on his body. Fortunately, I know a lot of knowledge that has not been discovered yet. After publishing a paper on the research on the evolution of Ibrahimovic, he became somewhat famous. Later, Dr. Omu invited me to come over and be a helper, and I agreed. Now he is a very famous Pokemon expert. 085 receive magic Pokemon form. Pikachu's shape out of habit as a researcher, he always wore a white coat. Only then did the other Su Mo admit his mistake. It seems like you're doing pretty well. After all, you can afford to support Larylus. Su Mo, who was in a different world, remembered the newcomer's cry for help. Couldn't help but joke. The pay for Pokemon scientists is quite good. Su Mo in the elf world scratched his head. Not to mention that I still have my own paper output, and Dr. Omu is behind me. No one dares to deduct my bonus. In the Pokemon world, although there is a serious gap in becoming a trainer. However, it is quite simple in other aspects. There is no malicious oppression by the mentor, and there are not many plots and tricks. After staying in the research laboratory for these years, Su Mo felt that his world had become much simpler, and his identity is quite respected in Genshin Town. In his spare time from research, Dr. Samerdo Ogi bought a Larylus egg, raised this little guy from childhood to adulthood. Under Su Mo's training, Larylus' combat effectiveness was pretty good. Usually, he is mainly responsible for assisting Su Mo in experiments and protecting Su Mo's safety. Humans are far less powerful than Pokemon. So before, he thought that he would only call for help from LaRue's when he was pranked by ghost Pokemon. Unexpectedly, this time it was not a prank, but the belated Golden Finger finally arrived. I envy your simple and peaceful life. Su Mo of the Magical Index world said with a little envy. Unlike here, I am always in dire straits, and there is always a bomb on my head. Thinking of his involvement in Index's incident, it will cause a series of butterfly effects. He felt a little headache. Ha ha ha. Even if you say so, if there is a chance, you won't want to change with me. Su Mo of the elf world smiled and shook his head. He's the one here. No one knows himself better than him. That's true. Su Mo of the Magical Index world also smiled. There are people on my side who can't be left alone. Although he complained about the devil all day long that it was too exceptional. But if he really asked him to change to another world, he would not agree. Over the years, he has established many relationships there, deep or shallow, and can't give up easily. Come to think of it, the newcomers this time are also ordinary people. Su Mo from the earthly world suddenly realized this problem. He couldn't help but fantasize. What if the newcomers traveled through time and space not as humans, but as Pokemon? Then we can now master a form of transformation into Pokemon. I want to transform into Mewtwo or Ho-Oh, or Articuno if that doesn't work. Hearing him say that, Su Mo from the God-Slayer world also had his eyes lit up. I want the transformation forms of Rayquaza and Kyogre. Lugia is also okay, but Groudon won't work. No need to ask why. Groudon won't work. It really won't work. Of all the mythical beasts, it's the only one that can't fly. It's the shame of the mythical beasts. Hearing the two people's fantasies, Su Mo from the elf world couldn't help but be speechless. Are you still talking like a human? Chapter 77. If I travel through time and space and become a Pokemon, how can I find a girlfriend? Are you going to sell me out just for a mere beast form? Are you still human? Although it would be very handsome to become a beast. But it is also inconvenient. At least Su Mo thinks that the human body is better. If we can get the beast form we want by not being human, it is not impossible to not be human for the time being. Su Mo from the God Slayer world thought about it and said, "Get out." Su Mo from the elf world looked at them with disdain. At this moment, Su Mo from the fairy tale world raised his head and looked at them. "Don't tell me, with the ability of a newcomer, you can really become a Pokémon." Hearing this, several Su Mo immediately came over. Su Mo from the elf world was stunned. "Why don't I know that I have this ability?" Then he realized what Su Mo from fairy tale meant. Receive magic? Hearing him say this, elf Su Mo thought carefully and soon noticed the power he shared. After remembering the first way to receive magic, Su Mo in the elf world frowned and shook his head. "Excuse me for refusing. No matter what, Pokemon are good kids with their own personalities. I can't accept them just because I want their forms. Even if they are wild Pokemon, it won't work." Su Mo is not a saint, nor will he have too much sympathy for ordinary wild creatures. Su Mo, who can kill the companion squirrel in the original world without caring, has a say in this. However, the Pokemon world is a little different. People in this world love Pokemon very much, even if they are bad people. At most, they use Pokemon to do bad things. There are very few people who wantonly kill Pokemon. Of course, some food-type Pokemon are excluded. Therefore, Su Mo, who has been studying Pokemon for many years in this world, is not willing to use this method to obtain the power of Pokemon. Anyway, using receiving magic to directly receive the Pokemon itself is actually equivalent to erasing the Pokemon's life. He didn't want to do this. Hearing what Su Mo in the elf world said, Su Mo in other worlds was a little disappointed, but he didn't say anything. Since the newcomer has his own insistence, they can only respect it. After all, everyone is Su Mo. Why bother yourself? At this time, Su Mo in the demon world shook his head. "Wait, don't rush to refuse. I mentioned receiving magic, and I want you to use it, not the first way, but the third way. The first way to receive magic is to defeat and receive a living Pokemon. But if you take the third way, you only need to have a very sufficient understanding of the transformed Pokemon. For ordinary wizards, it is impossible to have a scientist-like understanding of the animal to be transformed. That is unrealistic. Even if it can be done, the time cost is also a huge number. However, for newcomers, the third method is the most suitable." Su Mo from the fairy tale world smiled slightly. As a Pokemon scientist, you should have a very deep understanding of Professor Oak's Pokemon over the years, right? With your current knowledge reserve, I'm afraid that using the knowledge in your mind directly will be enough for you to master the transformation of Pokemon. There is no need to harm the life of the Pokemon at all. His words awakened the other Su Mo indeed. There is also this method. None of them knew as much about receiving magic as Su Mo from the fairy tale world, even if they had the corresponding knowledge in their minds. But without actual proficiency, they rarely thought of such an unpopular receiving method. And Su Mo from the elf world, after hearing what Su Mo from the fairy tale world said, his expression was also very surprised. There is such an operation? After thinking about it, he immediately confirmed that receiving magic can really be used in this way. The knowledge in his mind, it can really be directly transformed into the prototype transformed by receiving magic. "Wait a minute, I'll try." Impatiently, Su Mo from the elf world immediately mobilized the knowledge in his mind and began to model the Pokemon. "Zero, please give me flowers." Zero at first, it was the structure of the bones and the transmission of the bones. Then there was the problem of muscles and the use of natural forces. Then there was the material of the fur. In his mind, a huge amount of knowledge related to the Pokemon world was gathered. Then pay attention to splitting it into details and modeling it in your mind bit by bit. If it were normal times, this work needs to rely on computers. It also needs to use modeling software to assist in simulation. It takes about a week to completely complete the modeling of the simplest Pokemon. But now, because of sharing the power of Su Mo from the magical index world, Su Mo in the elf world found that his brain power calculations became extremely fast. His calculation power became extremely powerful. Even the calculation power of the computer in the research institute. I am afraid that it cannot compare with the calculation power of other people's brains. The superpowers of the Academy City need computing power to drive. As a level 5, the calculation power of Su Mo in the magical index world is the top level of the Academy City. The calculation power is naturally extremely powerful, with the blessing of this power. In just 1 minute, Su Mo completely completed the entire modeling structure of Pokemon in his mind. Whether it is biodynamics or Pokemon chemistry, Pokemon hormones, Pokemon attributes, all the details are designed properly. Then, receive magic Pikachu form. Su Mo activated the receiving magic. Completely fill the modeling in his mind with magic power. The light of the magic circle lit up. The next second, the figure of Su Mo in a white coat disappeared. Instead, there was a cute creature with brown patterns and pointed ears. Pika, Pika. The successfully transformed Pikachu jumped up in surprise. The two pointed ears trembled, which was so cute. The successfully transformed Pikachu was about to raise his head, report this good news to himself in other worlds. However, as soon as he raised his head, he found that several big hands had reached out to him mercilessly. A living Pikachu. Great. No. Let me pluck your ears too. Damn it, it's just a yellow mouse. Why does it feel so good? This fur feels so comfortable. It deserves to be the signature character of the Pokemon world. The four Su Mo used their sinful big hands. Chapter 78, he started rubbing the Pikachu's skin like he was petting a cat. This is the first time they have actually seen this cute creature. Naturally, you will find it hard to put it down. However, Pikachu, whose fur was scratched by them, the mood is not so beautiful. Pikapi, Pikapi, you too. Please pay attention to me and don't touch me. Do you hear me? Pika Pika. Pie. If it doesn't stop, I'm going to electrocute you. Asshole, don't pull my tail. Pikachu, who had poor communication, finally got angry. Pikachu. Crack. A blast of 100,000 volts struck all Su Mo like thunder. The golden electric light hit all four Su Mo. However, the four Sumos didn't react at all, and their fingers weren't even numb. They continued to pluck Pikachu's fur. This damn god killer's magic resistance. That's outrageous. Pick up. Pikachu suddenly became angry. The long tail began to shine with the color of steel. Pop, pap, pap, pap. An iron tail successfully forced Su Mo away. Then the magic circle lights up. Pikachu finally returned to his original self. After seeing this scene, several other Su Mo couldn't help but show expressions of regret. 086 Frozen bird form. Miss Zhu see the expressions on other Su Mo's faces. Su Mo from the elf world darkened his face and couldn't help roaring. You are so sorry. If you want to touch Pikachu, won't you change yourself? Although the foggy space does not share memories. However, intellectual things will still be shared. So, now that he can transform into Pikachu by receiving magic, other Su Mo can naturally do this. Hear the words of Su Mo in the elf world. Su Mo, who was in the wrong world, looked at him like a fool. If I transform myself, wouldn't I be the one who gets stabbed? Yes, yes. Su Mo from the Forbidden World nodded in agreement. It is different from the elf Su Mo, who has always lived in the Pokemon world and is therefore a bit naive. The two of them are very experienced. 200 naturally. He would not be stupid enough to transform into Pikachu first and be petted like a pet. I heard two people say this. Su Mo in the elf world was shocked. There are many traps in the city, and he wants to return to the countryside. People in the Pokemon world are still simple and don't play tricks at all. Haha. Seeing the shocked look on elf Su Mo from the other world laughed. After closing my eyes and studying for a while, the light of the magic circle flashed. Dicuo Su Mo's figure disappeared. A cutty dog appeared in front of everyone. But this time, no one picked up the puppy. Su Mo seemed to have found new fun. One after another began to receive magic transformation. Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle, Katie, BB. I have to say, Su Mo from the elf world has a very extensive knowledge of Pokemon. He has a very detailed understanding of most Pokemon in the Kanto region. I also dabbled in a lot of Pokemon from other regions. Therefore, the types of Pokemon they can transform into are simply ridiculous. The only pity is that there are no mythical beasts. Fairy Tale Su Mo. who had transformed into a meow form, said regretfully. Of course. Elf Somo rolled his eyes at him. How can it be so easy to obtain information about mythical beasts? Even if the Pokemon Alliance has it, it must be a top-secret level file. Although I am a researcher at Dr. Oma's Research Institute, I am not qualified to have access to information related to mythical beasts. It is temporarily impossible to transform into a divine beast. Don't watch it in anime. As Xiaoji walked there, he could always see various mythical beasts for various reasons. The appearance rate of mythical beasts seems to be extremely high. But in fact, the mythical beasts in the Pokemon world have always been invisible. It was difficult to take photos, let alone get relevant information. It's just that I can't find the information on the first-level divine beast. Fairy Tale Su Mo, who turned into Meow Meow, was a little confused. Isn't there any information on the second-level mythical beasts? Mythical beasts like Lightning Bird and Flame Bird shouldn't be so mysterious. Although mythical beasts are mysterious, they are mainly for ordinary people, for king-level trainers or champion-level trainers. You may still be unable to defeat a level 1 mythical beast, but it should be no problem to fight the second-level mythical beast. For them, once the second-level divine beast appears, it will be difficult to hide it. Moreover, in the original comics, second-level mythical beasts such as lightning birds have also been captured by humans. What is known is that, at least for those at the top of the Pokemon League, information about the second-level mythical beast is definitely not uncommon. Probably, hearing the words of Fairy Tale Su Mo from the elf world shook his head. But even if the Pokemon Alliance has information, I won't be able to access it for the time being at my level, although the papers he sent out were very weighty. But having weight does not mean that you will be trusted by the Pokemon Alliance. It has been relatively short since he officially became a Pokemon scientist. The resume before this cannot be tested. If you want to gain trust, it may take at least 10 years. Hearing what he said, Su Mo from the God-Killer world turned into Hudi and joined in the conversation using the words. If we don't start with the Pokemon Alliance, wouldn't it be okay to go directly to those mythical beasts? I remember that in the game, there is a lightning bird in the power plant, a freezing bird in the Twin Islands, and a flame bird in Silver Mountain. Maybe we can go and see Zero in these places. He doesn't know the real world either. Will the habitat of those mythical beasts be the habitat in the game? After all, the mythical beast is a living being, and no one can do anything if they want to move. However, it should be a method of exploration. Hearing the words of God-Killer Su Mo nodded. Of course, I have already checked the places you mentioned. I don't know if it was the wrong time to go or some other reason, but the divine beasts were not waiting for me in the other two places. For the time being, I only detected traces of freezing birds near the Twin Islands last year. However, I was not strong enough at the time and did not act rashly. Looking at it now, maybe I can go there. Now, the Larialas in his hand still can't defeat the 3 sacred birds. But it doesn't matter. His master has become strong enough to defeat the 3 sacred birds. If Frozen Bird approves this method of subjugation, perhaps soon, Su Mo will be able to gather all 3 holy birds. Acquire the receiving postures of the 3 divine beasts. Chapter 79. The divine beast form is entirely up to you. If you need any power, just tell me. Su Mo from the God Slayer world patted his chest, looking very reliable. In addition, it would be best to catch Rayquaza and study it. There are quite a few handsome divine beasts in Pokemon. By the way, if it doesn't work, Groudon will also work. 3.0 inch at the end, he still mentioned it. Su Mo from the Elf World said, persecution of Groudon is prohibited. Su Mo from the Fairy Tale world also laughed and teased. Be careful, Cliff, sword warning. Next, they were still playing the transformation game happily. Men are teenagers until they die. Let's not talk about whether the sentence is right or not. Anyway, Su Mo is having a lot of fun now. So, when Su Mo from the Genshin Impact world woke up early and came to the Misty Space, what he saw was a lot of Pokemon. When did the Misty Space become a zoo? Su Mo from the Genshin Impact world was stunned on the spot. It took a long time to figure out what was going on. 087 Brother Jia? I was hitting Brother Jia. You guys are really bored. Seeing the Pokémon all over the floor, Su Mo from the original God world complained. Hearing his words, the meow-like fairy tale Su Mo waved his paw at him. Don't you want to play together? Too childish. Su Mo from the original God world shook his head in disdain. I'm not a child. I won't play this. How could a reliable adult like him play this kind of game? Isn't it just transforming into a Pokémon? What's so strange about it? At most, he can go back and play it himself. At this time, Su Mo from the Dicuo, who transformed into Squirtle, heard his words. Puff! Without saying a word, Squirtle fired a water gun and sprayed it directly on the chest of the original god, Su Mo, Jenny. Then Squirtle smiled proudly. Pika Pika. Pikachu on the side called out. And from the tone of voice, it was probably to say, well done again. You guys. Original god Su Mo looked at the water stain in front of him. Not very harmful, but very insulting. How could he tolerate this? If you don't fight for 3 days, you'll tear the tiles off the roof. Original god's face darkened. Then, the light of the magic circle flashed. A Pokémon that always looked very much like Pikachu, but was a little stronger and bigger than Pikachu appeared. Pikachu's evolution Raichu. Raichu clenched his fists with a smirk on his face. Walked towards Squirtle. Electricity overcomes water. He wanted to see how Squirtle would resist him. Squirtle, you use restraining attributes, not a martial arts ethics. Dicuo Squirtle expressed indignation. However, he was ignored by original god Raichu with a grin. Raichu, translated as Squirtle? Brother Jake, I think you are very brave. Come on, stand still. I'm going to fight Brother Jake. So, Raichu chased Squirtle and started to play. Water vapor and lightning filled the air. In the foggy space, there was another period of chaos, although the attributes were at a disadvantage. But Squirtle did not seem to intend to switch to other forms. Instead, he wanted to reverse the attributes and turn the tables. It just transformed by receiving magic and evolved into Blastoise. It is a pity that the power increased by the evolved form is still not as good as the attribute restraint. In the end, the original god, Raichu, successfully defeated the Blastoise, standing on the big shell of the Blastoise. Su Mo in the original god world looked around with a haughty attitude. Then, he immediately set his eyes on Pikachu, who was gloating just now. The original god, Raichu, jumped down. It seems that he is ready to clean up one by one. However, the targeted Pikachu of the Magical Index had no intention of using his small body to challenge his own evolution. The magic circle shone. Su Mo of the Magical Index world changed from Pikachu to the huge Onix. Onix, which belongs to the ground type, is immune to electrical attacks. Seeing this, Raichu of the Genshin Impact world also changed. It seems that he intends to become a water type that restrains the ground type. The magic circle shone. Everyone looked closely. Pa! A red Magikarp appeared. Magikarp rolled helplessly on the ground. Used a powerless move, Water Splash. Nothing happened. Onix of the Magical Index was stunned. Becoming Magikarp, is he going to surrender? With a flash of light, Magikarp turned back to Su Mo's appearance. Su Mo of the Genshin Impact scratched his head. Sorry, I accidentally changed to the wrong one. Then the next second, he finally adjusted himself and became the target he wanted to transform into. Gyarados, a water and flying type against Onix, a rock and ground type. The compatibility is pretty good. Directly immune to ground type skills. That's it. Just like the battle between Sun Wukong and Erlang Shun in Journey to the West. The two of them kept transforming and then carried out various tentative attacks. Seeing the lively foggy space, Fairy Tale Meowth couldn't help but complain. Just now he was talking about this childishness. Isn't he having fun? Dicuo Su Mo, who had long switched from Blastoise to human form, nodded in agreement. This is probably just saying it's not right. The two of them watched the battle in the foggy space leisurely, until they were hit by the aftermath. Only then did they let go of their leisurely mentality and join the battlefield. Woke up early in the morning and moved around in the foggy space. After Su Mo and the others had a fight, there was no real winner in the end. Chapter 80 After all Su Mo can transform into the same number of Pokémon forms. In addition, The power of Pokemon skills nowadays is really not powerful enough to harm them. Basically, it's just a matter of clicks. After being tired from playing, Su Mo from the Genshin Impact world used hot air to dry his clothes. I got a general idea of the newcomer's experience, then left the foggy space, returned to his own world, the world of Genshin Impact. After returning from the foggy space, Su Mo opened his eyes. He immediately heard the shallow breathing next to him. Ying's sleeping appearance is pretty good. She doesn't roll around much and doesn't pull the quilt much. However, it was probably because Su Mo was warmer. Subconsciously, she still moved closer to Su Mo. Then, he met Paimon's sandwich between the two. He stopped just a short distance away from Su Mo. Su Mo only needed to tilt his head slightly. You can see Ying's defenseless sleeping face. It's a pity. If Paimon hadn't been in the way, Ying might have hugged him without even realizing it. Realize this. Su Mo suddenly felt that this Paimon seemed to be a bit of a hindrance. It's better to use it to make soup. Well, while he was sleeping, Paimon suddenly frowned, as if he felt some malice. The body couldn't help but shrink. Then he subconsciously moved towards Su Mo. Forget it, let you go. Seeing Paimon's confused look, Su Mo smiled, decided to forgive her for now. Then lift the quilt and prepare to get up. After washing up, Ying also woke up, sitting on the bed and rubbing her eyes sleepily. Good morning. After seeing Su Mo, she said hello as she was accustomed to. Good morning. Su Mo nodded and said casually, I seem to have awakened some power again. Ying nodded drowsily. It took a few seconds to wake up. What? Awaken the power again? Her eyes widened, and she was very surprised. Only one day has passed, and new power has been awakened? So fast? Thinking about myself, I only gained strength after coming into contact with the idol. Ying couldn't help but realize something. The difference between people is greater than the difference between people in Cookie. 088 Paimon. Don't cry. The crown will fall off. Please keep your hat on. What power? Ying couldn't help but ask curiously. She still remembered before, after Su Mo suddenly awakened his power. In one leap, he went from an ordinary person to a powerful man comparable to a god. Now, a new power has awakened. Although I don't know what the specific strength is, but Ying guessed that it would definitely not be ordinary. It should be said that it belongs to the power of transformation. Su Mo explained this. But rather than explaining it in words, it's easier to understand if you see it with your own eyes. Ying immediately nodded expectantly. He looked at Su Mo with very curious eyes. Then let's begin. After Su Mo thought for a moment, he activated the receiving magic. The light faded. A vivid Pikachu appears. Pikapi. Pikachu straightened up and called out. The lightning-shaped tail sways slightly. Orange skin, black eyes, and fluffy hair. Just the first meeting. Pikachu's cute appearance has already captured Ying's heart. So cute! Ying's eyes shone slightly. Then, without Su Mo reacting, he rushed over quickly. He held Pikachu in his arms. The pretty face pressed hard against Pikachu's hair. Then he couldn't stop rubbing it. Not too cute. Is this your new power? He asked with shining eyes while rubbing his eyes. Even if she knew it was Su Mo's transformation. Can't stop now. As the poster character of the Pokemon world, Pikachu is full of cuteness. Pika Pika. Pikachu nodded. Although I can't understand the Pokemon's language, I can understand what he means by looking at his posture. This hair, this color, feels even more comfortable to touch than Paimon. Hugging Pikachu, Ying's expression became soft, while enjoying the touch of high-quality fur. On the other side, she subconsciously compared it with Paimon. Although Paimon is very cute, he still has a human form after all and does not have such soft hair. So, after subconscious comparison, Ying felt that this wonderful and cute creature in front of him felt much better than Paimon. The words just fell. Click! Ying heard the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground. Follow the sound and look. It was discovered that Paimon had woken up at some point. He was looking at himself in shock. The crown-like decorations on Paimon's head fell to the ground, making a sound. But Paimon, who always treasured this crown, didn't care about this at all. He just looked at Ying in front of him with a look of shock and sadness. The expression on her face was as aggrieved as that of a betrayed girl. Traveler, you actually... Paimon covered his mouth with one hand, his eyes red with grievance. You actually raised other emergency food? Paimon never thought of that. I just woke up a little late. Then, I saw such a shocking scene. It has always been responsible for raising and protecting its own phoenix. He was actually holding another suspicious pet with a look of fondness on his face. That's all. It's not incomprehensible that girls like cute things. However, there was something that really broke Pai Ming's defense and made him unable to accept it. Not this, but when Ing was rubbing the suspicious creature. Chapter 81, he actually subconsciously compared it with himself. What's even more annoying is, the traveler actually said that his touch was not as good as that of that suspicious creature. That's too much. What is this behavior? This is not only cheating, but also the behavior of a scumbag who dislikes the first wife for not having a good figure as the mistress, beginning with chaos and ending with abandonment. Paimon couldn't hold himself any longer. Traveler, you're going too far. I'm going to Tiga Su Mo. She glared at Ing aggrievedly. Then he flew directly to the bathroom with the air of a child who went to complain to his father after being bullied by his mother. However, after searching around the room, she could not find Su Mo. At this time, Ing grabbed Paimon. Wait, Paimon, listen to my explanation. So saying, Paimon covered his ears. I don't want to listen. Traveler, you already have other pets. You don't want Paimon anymore. Saying very aggrievedly, Paimon continued to look for Su Mo. I don't have one. Ing was speechless as she lifted Pikachu in her arms. Paimon, actually this is Su Mo. Hearing this, Paimon couldn't help but become even more angry. Traveler, do you think I'm a fool? If you just find something and say it's Su Mo, do you think I'll be stupid enough to believe it? Umph. If this were Su Mo, I would cook myself on the spot. Paimon began to doubt his own image in Yin's heart. She's not a fool. How could such a false lie possibly deceive her? However, the words just fell. In front of Paimon, a magic circle suddenly appeared. Immediately, Pikachu directly changed back to Su Mo's appearance. Paimon was stunned on the spot, unable to understand what was happening in front of him. Su Mo touched his chin and looked at Paimon. I thought I heard someone say that I want to cook myself? Oh, dash. Only then did Paimon react. Surprise sounds echoed throughout the hotel. After being lectured by the hotel staff, Su Mo and Ing saw that it was almost time and checked out. Several people were walking on the street, so the cute little animal just now was transformed by Su Mo. Paimon finally understood what had happened. The traveler has not changed his mind and kept other pets. Paimon patted his chest. Only then did I feel at ease. Okay. If it was Su Mo, there would be no problem. But Ing still remembers one thing. She looked at Paimon next to her with an expression she didn't know whether it was naive or sinister. By the way, I remember what Paimon said just now. If that Pikachu is Su Mo, she will cook herself. Look, traveler, the Adventurers Guild is just ahead. Su Mo, let's go faster. Paimon, who noticed what Ing was about to say, immediately interrupted her. Fly directly to the Adventurers Guild in front and wave to them. This guy Paimon is really cunning, Ing muttered, and then couldn't help laughing, thinking of Paimon's aggrieved expression before. It's better not to argue with this little fool. At Paimon's call, the two walked towards the Adventurers Guild. This is the policy they set yesterday. Register an adventurer. Do some tasks and earn some more first. 089I and the Destined Destroyer of the World Adventurers Association. In addition to the counter in the front, the room in the back is also an association facility. Inside is a structure like a tavern. It is mainly provided as a place for adventurers to gather and talk. The counter in front, as well as the signboard with bounty mission orders, is where the missions are received. Overall, the setup of the Adventurers Guild is similar to that of the Fairy Tale Guild. However, the adventure members are not as united as the Fairy Tale Guild, and their relationship is relatively distant. The poster girl of the Fairy Tale Guild, who is responsible for confirming the acceptance of tasks, is Mira Jane. The poster girl of the Adventurer Association is Catherine. After getting off the hotel, Su Mo and his party arrived at the back door of the Adventurers Association. We were about to pass through the tavern at the back and head to the counter to find Catherine. But on the way, was stopped. It was a girl with long blonde hair tied into twin tails and wearing quite thin and textured black gauze-like clothes. The girl's dress is gorgeous and close-fitting, but there is a different kind of temptation. The most eye-catching thing is her eyes. The left eye, which was covered by bangs, had a black eye patch on for some unknown reason. It added an air of mystery to her. In other words, the second breath. I am the Princess of Judgment. My real name is Fisher. I came here at the call of fate. The girl named Fisher introduced herself gorgeously. Hearing this, Ing was stunned for a moment. In Mondstadt, you can actually meet the princess of a country casually, just when she didn't know how to respond politely to the other party. Su Mo on the side whispered to her, "Leave it to me." Then, Su Mo took a step forward. He has a lot of experience in dealing with Chinibyu. Moreover, when it comes to Chinibyu, Su Mo, who has a dark history, doesn't think he is worse than others. So, he looked directly into Fiscal's eyes and stretched out his hand. "The Princess of Conviction, Fiscal. Is that you? Nice to meet you." Huh? Unexpectedly, the other party who met for the first time didn't complain about his wording. After being stunned for a moment, Fiscal immediately showed a surprised expression. These adventure associations are quite rare. She immediately stretched out her slender fingers and shook hands with Su Mo. On the side, Oz, the night crow, who was about to translate Fiscal's words. After seeing that Su Mo seemed to be able to communicate with Fiscal, he shut up. While shaking hands, Su Mo also began to introduce himself. "I am the destroyer of destiny, the terminator of all things. I cannot be disobeyed. I cannot be stopped. I am the cataclysm." The majestic voice, coupled with the domineering name, instantly shocked Fiscal. The destroyer of destiny, the terminator of all things. Such a terrifying title. The man in front of me, Chapter 82, his status, is even higher than that of the Princess of Judgment. I have never seen such a high-profile self-introduction. Fiscal couldn't help it for a moment and looked back at the crow behind her in panic. And her crow, Oz, could only flap his wings and said nothing. In terms of the degree of middle school, Oz is even worse than his lady Fiscal. How could he possibly join in the conversation? Seeing Fiscal like this, Su Mo smiled and continued. "Some people call me the God Killer, some call me the Warrior of Light, some call me the Tyrant, and some call me the Demon King. People are used to labeling things they can't understand in order to reduce their fear. However, the one who appears here is just an adventurer. Miss Fiscal, just call me by my name, Su Mo." After these words, the surplus of arrogance was completely transformed into sincerity and friendliness. Not only did it touch Fiscal's middle school heart, but it also made her feel Su Mo's sincerity. So, Fiscal looked at Su Mo in front of her with shining eyes. Her hands tightened. "Demon King Su Mo, welcome to my hometown. As a fellow traveler, this princess recognizes your majesty. If you are bothered by trivial matters, just tell the starry sky. This princess has always been generous to her allies. This is the law of fate. I won't say thank you," Su Mo responded, looking at the two people who get along well, saying strange words that they can't understand. Ing and Paimon looked at each other, full of confusion. What are they talking about? Paimon touched his head and couldn't understand it at all. The night crow Oz on the side was naturally happy when he saw Fiscal's rare happy look. Notice that Ing and Paimon were Su Mo's companions. Oz immediately explained to the two. Miss Fiscal said she is a local, and if Mr. Su Mo encounters any difficulties, he can ask her for help. Then Mr. Su Mo agreed and thanked Miss Fiscal. After hearing Oz's translation, Ing finally figured out what the two were talking about. She had also seen Chinibyu, so she could accept Fiscal's situation. It was just a little bit hard to understand. Paimon was even more confused. But didn't Su Mo say, "Don't say thank you" before? Why did it translate to express gratitude? She couldn't understand the rest. The last sentence was finally understood, but the meaning was different from what she thought. Ing could answer this question. "Don't say thank you. It should just be a euphemism. The actual meaning is, this matter is indeed worthy of gratitude, But with our relationship, there is no need to be so unfamiliar. I will keep this gratitude in my heart like this. It's so complicated. Paimon was a little dizzy. As expected of a traveler, you are well informed and even know this. In addition to admiring Ying, Paimon also looked at Su Mo with admiration. Su Mo is also amazing. Not only does he understand such complex AFTA, but he also speaks in a roundabout way. He can also build a good relationship with strangers so quickly. Traveler, you must learn this well. Hearing Paimon's words, Ying looked at Su Mo and then noticed that it was true. After introducing himself, Su Mo didn't know what he said, and soon made the girl named Fiscal very happy. The relationship between the two quickly became closer, like old friends who hadn't seen each other for a long time. Ying looked at this scene, and the expression on her face quickly faded. The air pressure dropped a little, and Paimon, the instigator, didn't know what he had done. She flew to Su Mo's side and waved to Ying. Traveler, come here. This Miss Fiscal seems willing to help us register as adventurers. Ying then walked over expressionlessly. Then, subconsciously, she stood beside Su Mo, closer than usual. This is the traveler from another world you just mentioned. Fiscal's eyes lit up when she saw Ying coming over. Very good. This princess will allow you to go with her. The night crow Oz beside her translated. Miss, you mean it's nice to meet you? Well, I'm glad to meet you too. I didn't expect the other party to be so enthusiastic. Ying nodded somewhat unexpectedly, and her impression of Fiscal was much better. Su Mo on the side spoke. At present, we need to register as adventurers, and then take on tasks to earn living expenses. Fiscal, is there anything we need to pay attention to? The opening remarks have already worked. Su Mo will naturally not continue to be a middle school student. It's okay to be embarrassed. It's just too tiring to talk like that. And Fiscal, for his part, naturally understands the usual conversations. The former Demon King actually wants to start over. This is something worth witnessing. There are no restrictions to becoming an adventurer, and there is no need to offer sacrifices. All you need is a soul that belongs to an adventurer. Follow the steps of this princess, and you will witness the truth of the world. Fiscal finished speaking. Oz, the night crow, immediately followed the translation. What the lady means is that you don't need to pay to become an adventurer, as long as you have the will. The lady will take you to register together. With Fisher, a veteran, helping out, Su Mo was naturally happy and relaxed. Thank you very much. He thanked Fisher in front of him. Oh, you're welcome. Fisher shook his head shyly, but King Nian Shang's expression was very happy and flattering. Don't get me wrong, Fisher doesn't have any male or female feelings for Su Mo yet. The reason why she is shy is because she rarely hears anyone truly thanking her. As usual, though, many people in the Adventurer Association would be grateful to her. The actual recipients of gratitude are all Oz. In the Adventurers Association, Ozco is much more popular than Fisher. Many people regard her as Oz's pendant. Like this to Su Mo. People who thank Fisher simply because of himself. So far there are very few. With help from Fisher, Su Mo and Ying's adventurer certificates were issued quickly. According to Fisher, the Adventurers Association is currently very short of people. Originally, adventurers would be screened and graded. Now all you have to do is be willing to register. Basically, you can pass it. It took less than 10 minutes. Su Mo and Ying became official adventurers, qualified to accept quests issued by the Adventurers Association. In fact, Su Mo would rather accept simple tasks such as collecting animal meat or sweet flowers from the Knights of the West Wind. But it's a pity. They still don't have access to the knight in charge of logistics. You can only accept the mission emergency from the Adventurers Association first. Talk to the Cookie people. Eileen, the future knight. Bing Bingly Angly Yang's Big Adventure. Chapter 83, the naming style of the task, made Su Mo feel surprisingly familiar. However, he did not choose those familiar tasks. But after selection, the task with the closest distance and the shortest round trip time was found. Task requirement: clear the Cookie camp near Mondstadt with a detailed map. Task reward: 20,000 molus. 090 Burning Torch and Burning Vine Lord. Paimon is not a cup. The Coquettish camp on the map is just before the Pigeon Bridge. And over there happens to be a teleportation anchor point. Back and forth, it would take dozens of minutes. Fisher really wanted to go on a mission with Su Mo and the others. I want to take care of Su Mo, who is a newcomer. Unfortunately, as an investigator of the Adventurers Association, she still has a commission from the Adventurers Association to complete. So I can only say goodbye with regret. You Dark Tyrant, I look forward to our next meeting. After Fisher left such a sentence, he left with a little bit of reluctance. As for Su Mo, by teleporting the anchor point, they quickly reached the target area. Then I saw the Coquettish people who were organizing the camp. This was the past, when Su Mo was traveling with Ing, looking at the enemy who was about to run away. But now they're just chickens and dogs. Coquettish people, your emperor is back. Ing didn't have time to observe. Su Mo walked over directly. Wealth that does not return to its hometown is like walking in brocade at night. 30 years in Hudong and 30 years in Hashi. Don't bully young people into poverty. Today, Su Mo is going to let these Coquettish people witness his growth. Yeah. As soon as they saw Su Mo, the Coquettish people let out a familiar cry. In response, Su Mo smiled kindly. Mosi Mita, I'm very happy. After responding, he rushed into the Coquettish camp and started killing. It was like being hit by a tornado. The Coquettish people's camp was directly destroyed by the storm in just an instant. Saw this brutal scene, Ing and Paimon, who were not present, looked at each other helplessly. Speaking of which, was Su Mo communicating with the Coquettish people just now? Paimon thought of Su Mo's voice just now and felt a little strange. It does sound like the language of the Coquettish people, but how did Su Mo learn it? He was a little surprised. The language of Coquettish people is very distinctive. Pronunciation is full of emotion. So even though she didn't understand the Coquettish people's language, she could still tell that Su Mo was speaking Coquettish dialect. But I don't know where he learned it. So Su Mo actually knows the language of the Coquettish people? Paimon was a little surprised. Then he fell into deep thought. No wonder we couldn't find anything to eat half a month ago, and we're very hungry. Su Mo ran outside and brought us animal meat as food. We asked him where he got it, and Su Mo said it was given by his Coquettish friends. At that time, I thought Su Mo was joking, but now that I think about it, maybe it was really a gift from Coquettish people. I remember what happened half a month ago. Only then did Paimon realize that Su Mo might have learned the language of the Coquettish people a long time ago. What I said before was not a joke. But didn't Su Mo say that he was caught by travelers after he traveled to this world? Thinking of this, Paimon suddenly discovered a problem. If that's the case, where did Su Mo learn the language of the Coquettish people? Along the way, he didn't have many opportunities to learn the Coquettish people's language. Here Paimon's question. Ing is also a little confused. After thinking about it for a while, there was no result. Ing shook her head. Maybe before this, Su Mo, like me, also lived in this world, but he just forgot about it. After all, he also lost his memory. It is very possible that Su Mo also lost this part of his memory. I thought I was new to this world. Well, that makes sense. Paimon nodded too. If you lose your memory, there is nothing you can do. The effort of a few sentences. The Coquettish people's camp had been completely destroyed. Look at this camp in ruins. There were also Coquettish people lying unconscious on the ground. Only then did Ing react. Paimon, it's time to find the treasure. Oh. When Paimon heard this, he immediately flew overexcitedly. After cleaning the Coquettish camp, the most important thing is to search for treasures. Ing and Paimon are very familiar with this. In Su Mo's words, Ing and Paimon both have the talent to never let go of any treasure chest in sight. It's perfect for them to search for loot. It didn't take long. Paimon and Ing searched the Coquettish camp thoroughly. Whether it's the vegetables or meat in the barrel, or the mora and weapons hidden on the Coquettish people, even the masks on Coquettish people's faces, they were all ripped off. All are stored in Paimon's space. These things can all be sold for money. After Paimon and Ing finished searching, the entire camp was empty, with nothing valuable left. Just as they were packing up their loot, when preparing to leave, suddenly a cry was heard. Adventurers in front. Wait a minute, that was the voice coming from the sky. Several people looked up. Sure enough, they saw a figure approaching in the sky. Glider. Ing recognized the flying tool of this person. It's not a skirt, bad review. Su Mo recognized the identity of the girl dressed as a red knight. It's you, true Lord Burning Torch and Burning Vine. Very soon, the girl gliding in the sky landed directly, and a perfect flipping action removed the excess force. Then she stood up lively. Wearing a red headdress like an ear on her head, the young-looking girl knight stood in front of them. May the wind god protect you, adventurers. The girl greeted the two people with knight etiquette. Then, with her head held high and her chest puffed out, she introduced herself proudly. I am Amber, the scout knight of the Knights of Favonius. You two look very unfamiliar. You should be adventurers who have just come to Mondstadt recently, right? At this point, Amber's expression was very serious, and it was obvious that she wanted to question the identities of these strangers. The Knights of Favonius? Ing was stunned for a moment, then remembered that she had heard someone talk about it yesterday. Chapter 84. This is the official organization responsible for maintaining security in Mondstadt. 0. Ask for flowers. 0. Wait, please calm down. We are not suspicious persons. Paimon suddenly panicked. He immediately waved his hands and tried hard to explain something. That's what suspicious people say. Amber showed a suspicious expression, especially when she looked at Paimon. She looked very concerned. Are you here to carry out the mission of the Adventurers Association? Amber's brows jumped as she looked at the wreckage around her. She had also cleaned up the cookie camp, but it was difficult to do it as thoroughly as she was doing now. Not only the camps were destroyed, even the solid roadblocks were crushed to pieces. This is not something that a guy without the eyes of God can do. Suddenly, she raised her evaluation of the people in front of her by another level. Ing nodded and handed over the task list from the Adventurers Association. As expected, Amber took it and looked at it, then whispered, there have been more and more cookie camps outside the city recently. It would be a bit difficult to manage without adventurers joining us. After muttering, she turned her attention to Su Mo and others again. Finally, Paimon was locked. Thank you for your service to Mondstadt. But what's going on with this mascot floating in the air? Is it your companion? It is quite common for powerful adventurers to appear, but wonderful creatures like Paimon. This was really the first time I met Amber. I heard her ask. Ing and Su Mo both hesitated. Then, he replied at the same time. Paimon is emergency food. Paimon is the cup. Here are the two people's answers. Paimon couldn't help but put his hands on his hips and look at Ing. He was so angry that he stamped his feet in vain. That's totally wrong. How can it be worse than a mascot? After finishing complaining, Paimon turned to Su Mo's side again. What you said is also very strange. What does the cup mean? Because he didn't quite understand Su Mo's weird words, Paimon didn't react much to this sentence. This you will know when you grow up. Su Mo thought for a while and had no explanation. Otherwise, Amber might be arrested on the spot. It seems like you have a good relationship. Amber looked at the interaction between several people and felt a little more relaxed. A giant dragon has appeared near Mondstadt recently. With your strength, there shouldn't be any problem, but you'd better be careful, because they know that Su Mo and others are adventurers. Amber didn't doubt them much at this time. He didn't offer to escort them to Mondstadt either. Just a reminder to them to be safe. Dragon? Paimon was a little surprised when he heard Amber's words. She still remembered that they saw a bard talking to the dragon yesterday. Now it seems that the giant dragon may cause harm to humans? What's wrong? Have you noticed any clues about the dragon? See Paimon's reaction. Amber asked immediately. As a scout knight, it is also one of her tasks to explore the dragon's movements. 091ing. Looking for my brother? Who is the elder brother? No. Paimon immediately waved his hands in panic. If you confess, you will be lenient, and you will be jailed. He refused to be strict and went home to celebrate the new year. Paimon still knew this. It would be troublesome if he was involved in questioning because of the news about the dragon. I always feel suspicious. Amber stared at Paimon. It was obvious that she didn't mean what she said. I have to say that Paimon's lying skills are really poor. Even a child could probably tell that she was lying. Su Mo sighed and stepped forward to rescue him. We did see a giant dragon yesterday, probably near the Whispering Forest. However, the giant green dragon flew away soon, and we don't know where it went. As for the bard talking to the dragon, Su Mo selectively did not say anything. He didn't lie either, just telling part of the truth. Therefore, this is more trustworthy. Near the Whispering Forest, speaking of which, I did hear someone report yesterday that they saw a giant dragon flying in that direction. After hearing Su Mo's words, Amber thought for a while and realized that this information matched the information about the dragon's sighting yesterday. Although I don't know what the dragon was going to do in the past. After all, a day has passed, and the dragon must have flown away. This information doesn't have any particular significance. However, the 200 code can confirm that the person in front of you is not lying. As for Paymon's subconscious denial, judging from the other person's toddler size, there is no need to care. Thank you for the information. It's time for me to continue to investigate the surrounding situation. Feeling that there was probably nothing wrong with the people in front of her, Amber stopped staying. Next time if you see any clues, I hope you can tell me. No matter what, now that the dragon's trouble is solved, you can take risks with peace of mind. Yeah, we will. Paimon nodded, agreeing quickly at this time. However, according to Su Mo's understanding of her, Paimon probably just wanted to send this scout knight away as soon as possible. After all, if Amber continued to ask, she was not sure if she could hide the matter about Wendy, although she was full of doubts about the bard. But looking at Su Mo's appearance, it seemed that he was not going to say it. Paimon was not going to drag his feet. Fortunately, Amber was a bit impetuous. After seeing Paymon's agreement, he said goodbye to Su Mo and others and continued to patrol forward. What about us now? Ing looked at Su Mo and asked, let's go back to Mondstadt to collect the reward first. Su Mo already had a plan in mind. Our goal is to find the Lord Wind God of Mondstadt. To achieve this, the only clues at present are the Knights of Favonius and the Church of Favonius. In addition, if you want to find your brother, you also need to ask the Knights of Favonius for help. At this point, we need to give a reason that the Knights of Favonius cannot refuse. In the original plotline, if Ing hadn't dealt with the Wind Demon Dragon, the Knights of Favonius wouldn't have valued her so much. They wouldn't have given her the status of an honorary knight. Now, they came relatively early. They haven't made any achievements yet. Seeking help in this situation, although they wouldn't be ignored, the knight's assistance would probably not be too great. After all, he and Ing were both outsiders. Chapter 85, and the Knights of Favonius are already very busy. It would be too much to ask them to post missing person notices all over the streets just because of a stranger's request. Brother. Hearing Su Mo's words, Ing suddenly realized. Yes, he still needs to find his brother. He almost forgot it himself. Even if the Wind God cannot be found, the missing person notice must be posted. And Mondstadt is a huge city that can accommodate millions of people. Without the help of the Knights of Favonius, it is really difficult to post missing person notices everywhere. Su Mo's idea is indeed very reasonable. As before, it is very trustworthy. However, what is the reason that the Knights of Favonius cannot refuse? Paimon asked curiously. If you want others to be unable to refuse you, the easiest way is to show favor to others. Su Mo explained. As long as you make others owe you a favor, many things will be very convenient. And the extent to which others cannot refuse you is related to the favor you give to others. Of course, this statement is only useful for people who are more proud. Wow! Paimon was shocked when he heard Su Mo's words. It feels so insidious. It feels like some conspiracy. This is a strategy, Ing said on Su Mo's side. It's just an open conspiracy. Even if it is seen through, we still need to thank us. Su Mo said, looking at Paimon, give an example. Just like now, if I suddenly announce that I will no longer regard Paimon as emergency food, and regard Paimon as an important partner. This is equivalent to doing a favor to Paimon. Paimon will be very grateful to me, and I can further ask her to do whatever she wants. This example is a bit subtle. After hearing this, Paimon just complained with his eyes empty. Paimon is not such an easy guy to bribe, and I'm not an emergency food. If you want to give me a favor, you have to, at least, 100,000 Morris. Breaking his fingers, Paimon set a price that he thought was an astronomical figure. 100,000. So cheap, Su Mo muttered, and then his eyes lit up. If 100,000 moras can buy Paimon, he immediately worked overtime 996. Buy a dozen to warm the bed at home. It's a pity that this is not realistic. And even if you say so, Paimon, it is undeniable that if I change the name, you will definitely be very happy, right? Sumo looked at Paimon. Some things will not fail just because you understand the principle. Sometimes, even if you know the reason, you will still be hit. For example, this. Paimon wanted to refute, but think about it carefully. If Su Mo seriously announced that he regarded her as his best partner, Paimon would definitely be very happy. Okay, I can't refute it. Finally, she could only raise her hands to surrender. I understand what Su Mo said. By giving examples, Ing roughly understood Su Mo's thoughts. If you want to show favor to the Knights of Favonius, what should you do? However, she didn't know Su Mo's thoughts about the actual actions. It's very simple. Su Mo replied immediately. Since the Knights of Favonius are now troubled by the dragon, we just need to help them solve this trouble, and they must accept this favor. Solve the dragon? Hearing this, Ing tilted her head. It feels a bit difficult, although she obtained the wind elemental power from the statue of the wind god. But Ing is not very skilled in using it now. If she wants to fight the dragon directly, she still feels a little reluctant. Don't worry about this. I'm here, so you don't need to worry about the problem of strength. Su Mo shook his head indifferently. He didn't take the dragon to heart. But before that, we should indeed change our equipment 0. Hearing this, Ing looked at the rusty sword in Su Mo's hand. He looked at the blank weapon in his hand again. Although it can be used, it is really limited to being usable. Such weapons are very difficult to use against the Hillock thugs, and they will be broken if you are not careful. Yeah, Ing nodded in approval. This low-level equipment should indeed be replaced. After returning to Mondstadt and submitting the task, Su Mo received 20,000 mora, in addition to some things looted from the Hillock camp. Altogether, they sold for several thousand mora, easily earn enough living expenses. Then, they came to the most famous blacksmith shop in Mondstadt, Wagner's Forge Shop. Wow, so many weapons. Paimon looked at the row of weapons in front of him in surprise and looked around carefully. It just feels a bit ordinary. Sumo also took a look at these weapons. It is worthy of being a 2-star weapon. Although it is very qualified as a weapon, it has basically no characteristics. The importance of weapons in the original world is not as strong as that of weapons. In addition to the special abilities of weapons, the power of a weapon depends at most on the person's performance. Good weapons are naturally strong, but the difference from ordinary weapons is not very big. Aside, the blacksmith Wagner, who heard their conversation, came over immediately. Mass-produced weapons are for use by ordinary adventurers. If you want stronger weapons, you need to customize them. As a blacksmith, he doesn't want customers to underestimate his shop. Customized weapons? Paimon came over curiously. How many molas do you need to customize it? She is more concerned about the price than the power of the weapon. If it were a long sword equivalent to the Zephyr sword of the Knights of the West Wind, it would cost at least 100,000 moras. Wagner quoted his price. It depends on whether you want a one-handed sword, a two-handed sword, or a spear. However, if you can provide the original embryo, the forging fee of 90,000 molas can be reduced. It's so expensive. After Paimon heard the price, he immediately waved his hand. It actually costs 100,000 molas. 3.0 It's simply more expensive than her. Hear Paimon say that. Wagner immediately refused. Chapter 86 Go Go Go. This is the price of my weapons. If you don't want to buy it, feel free to take a look at it yourself. After saying that, he just ran to the stove and continued to hammer the iron. Like Furnace, he also has a fiery temper. Are you angry now? Paimon's a little dumbfounded. She really felt that she had no money to buy it. Maybe he feels that you are questioning whether his craftsmanship is worth 100,000 molas. So he is a little angry. Fluorescence analysis. After all, he is a blacksmith master, and he has his own dignity. But we really don't have that much money. Paimon spread his hands helplessly. Otherwise, how many more missions should we do? Come back after we have saved up enough? Even she knew that it was necessary to change to a more useful weapon. So, now is not the time to worry about money. Ing nodded. It's probably enough to save it for a few days. It'll be fine. Being able to use the mobile anchor point to teleport, they can complete tasks very quickly. It would be nice if there was some kind of original embryo. Paimon shook his head regretfully. At this time, Su Mo's voice sounded. Speaking of the original embryo, I know where to get this thing. Paimon and Ing looked over excitedly. 092, the Great Sword Master, is looking for the cuckold poet. Why do I feel like Su Mo knows everything? On the way to the souvenir shop, Paimon couldn't help but complain. Not only can he understand the language of Cookie people, even the original embryos knew where to get them. They knew Mondstadt even better than the Mondstats. I don't know everything. Su Mo shook his head. I just happen to know what I should know. So suspicious. Paimon looked around Su Mo, but didn't see anything. Soon, the 2.5 men returned to the Adventurers Association. Then, we went to a merchandise store diagonally across from the Adventurers Association. Welcome to the Glory Wind. What do you two need to buy? The shop owner Marjorie greeted the two warmly. As promised in advance, adventurers don't need Mora to buy things from me. The items for adventurers in my store need to be paid for with the Seal of the Wind. Seal of the Wind? Paimon scratched his head. Another thing I have never heard of. It's the green seal that was often hidden in the treasure chest when we traveled before. It contains the power of the wind element. Su Mo explained and then said, I remember Paimon collected a lot of them at that time. Yeah, there are a lot of them. Paimon nodded and then said in great surprise. So, these seals can also be used to buy things? Fortunately, we didn't throw it away at the time. After rejoicing, Paimon shook out all the wind seals he had stored. Crash! 500s of wind seals were placed on the counter, forming a small mountain. There are actually so many wind seals? The store owner, Marjorie, was surprised. The eyes looking at Su Mo and Ing were obviously much closer. It seems that both of you are very adventurous and adventurous. In this era, there are very few people who would devote themselves so wholeheartedly to adventure. I didn't expect that you, as newcomers, would have such perseverance. As the daughter of the president of the Mondstadt branch of the Adventurers Association, she has a very fond impression of people with an adventurous spirit. Those who can obtain so many wind seals must have experienced quite a lot of adventures and travels. This cannot be faked. Hear her words. Su Mo and Ing looked at each other awkwardly. Well, you can put it that way. Huh? Their collection of so many wind seals really has little to do with their adventurous spirit. Mainly because I couldn't find a place to live for a month, so I was forced to wander in the wild. But now I feel a little unable to say these words. Is there anything you two want? Feel free to take a look. Marjorie showed off her merchandise display cabinet. Most of the above are related to adventurers. After asking carefully, Su Mo regretfully discovered that this store did not offer the service of exchanging wind seal for Mora. This money exchanging setting in the game before time travel may just prevent players from being dissatisfied because they obtain too many useless wind seals. We need weapon prototypes, Su Mo said when he saw the items on the shelf. Ing uses a one-handed sword. As for me, I want a two-handed sword prototype. Regarding swordsmanship, Su Mo only had a rough grasp of it. That was the result of learning from Su Mo and Urza in the fairy tale world. Urza herself is proficient in dress-up magic, and she can do basically all weapons. Therefore, Su Mo's learning style is also the same. Whether it is one-handed sword, two-handed sword, spear or bow and arrow, Su Mo has a good foundation. In the world of Genshin Impact when it comes to choosing weapons, basically there is not much controversy. Great Sword Master. The fire-type sword is even better. Paimon was a little surprised when he heard what he said. Hey, does Su Mo actually know how to use weapons? I always thought you were that kind of magician. Because after Su Mo awakened his power, he basically summoned storms and thunder out of thin air. It does not look like a warrior style, but a wizard style. It's true that he is a wizard, but for me, those magic tools have almost no enhancement, so it's better to choose weapons. With Su Mo's current physique, even the 5-star Weapon 4 Wind's original codex does not enhance him much. It's not bad to practice with a big sword instead of using magic tools. Anyway, swordsmanship can also be shared. Maybe it will be useful to Su Mo in other worlds. Marjorie, who was standing by, took out the embryo he wanted from the warehouse after listening to Su Mo's request. Originally, only the one-handed sword embryo was sold, and the two-handed sword embryo was intended for collection. Marjorie explained, but since the adventurer needs it, it's better to entrust it to someone who can use it. Thank you, Miss Marjorie. Hearing that this was a special treatment, Paimon immediately thanked the store manager happily. After paying 450 wind seals, they finally succeeded in getting the weapon embryo. Turning back, they immediately went to Wagner to forge weapons. Although he was a little upset because of what Paimon said before, but Wagner's temper was still very straightforward. After seeing the embryo, he immediately agreed to forge weapons for them. It is worth mentioning that, even if the embryo is used to forge weapons, it will take 3 days to complete the forging. Before that, they can only wait. As for the remaining cost of forging weapons, it will be paid after the weapons are forged. After finishing the weapons, it was almost noon. The three came to the Deer Hunter restaurant. Chapter 87. After ordering lunch, Ing looked at a big pot next to the Deer Hunter restaurant with some concern. It is rare to put the stove outside. Moreover, the restaurant does not seem to plan to use the stove outside to cook. All dishes are served from the kitchen inside. It seems that she noticed Ying's sight. Sarah, a waitress at the Deer Hunter restaurant, explained. The stove outside is for the guests to use themselves. The Deer Hunter restaurant is closed at night, but it is inevitable that there will be hungry people who can't find food. In order to meet the needs of these guests, we specially designed a stove outside. Firewood and other things are provided by the restaurant, but the ingredients and other ingredients need to be prepared by the guests themselves. Hearing this introduction, Ing was somewhat tempted. Then can we cook our own dishes in the future? Yes. Su Mo nodded. Ing, and you have good skills in outdoor cooking. Even compared with the Deer Hunter restaurant, it is not much worse. Because of Su Mo in the world of Dicuo, Su Mo also has a lot of experience in making fried rice. However, they have not learned many dishes. If there is a chance, perhaps the recipes should be enriched. After all, cooking is also an important skill. After the meal, Su Mo spent money to buy several recipes at the Deer Hunter restaurant. It is said that these are all local specialties. In order to spread his own food culture, he also passed on his secret recipes. Fortunately, the price is cheap and it doesn't cost much. Ing also has a desire to try new recipes. After the traveler and Su Mo learn these recipes, I can eat a variety of different foods every day. Seeing the two people buying recipes, Paimon was very happy, as if he saw a better life in the future. It's a pity that this is not a game. Otherwise, Paimon would find that even if the traveler can cook, but what other people can often eat is basically sweet flour stuffed chicken. After all, these ingredients are the easiest to obtain. Next, we are going to a mysterious place. After a break, Su Mo said mysteriously. Strictly speaking, minors are not allowed to enter that place, but Mondstadt should have a very loose control. Huh? What place is so mysterious? After hearing this, Paimon was immediately curious. Minors are not allowed to enter. Well, do you want to take Paimon to that kind of place? Ing was stunned for a moment and immediately thought of something wrong. That's not good. Ing blushed and looked at Su Mo. And why do you suddenly want to go to that kind of place? I heard that those places are not clean and there is a risk of getting sick. Otherwise, just bear with it. Hearing Ying's words, Paimon was even more confused. Unclean places? There is a possibility of getting sick. Where are you talking about? She was even more curious. Su Mo was speechless. The place I want to talk about is the tavern. As for where Ing wants to talk about, I don't know. Hearing this, Paimon looked at Ing with an ignorant and innocent look. Traveler, where did you think of just now? Besides the tavern, is there any place that minors cannot enter? Faced with Paiming's innocent question, and Su Mo's teasing eyes, Ying's face flushed. She covered her face directly, squatted down, and uttered a shy cry. Sorry, I was wrong. She thought Su Mo had been holding it in for a month. I wanted to find a strange place to relax. Unexpectedly, he was talking about the tavern. This is so embarrassing. And Su Mo found out that she knew so many strange knowledge. She wouldn't be hated, would she? Just when Ying's mind was in a mess, Paiming was still confused. Why did the traveler apologize? Did she do something wrong? How strange. In response to this, Su Mo was very considerate and pulled Paiming away. It's better not to delve into a girl's secret. Oh. Paiming nodded as if he understood. After a while, Ying, who had recovered, lowered her head in embarrassment and followed Su Mo. Like a duckling following its mother, she walked without saying a word. The two soon arrived at their destination, the Tavern Angel's Gift. At this time, seeing the bard at the door of the tavern and the lively drinkers, Paiming realized the purpose of Su Mo bringing them to the tavern. Are we here to catch the green-hatted guy? She couldn't help but ask Su Mo. Since we want to catch the dragon, naturally, we have to catch the clues that can find the dragon. And the bard named Wendy they met yesterday is one of the most important clues. 093 stealing prohibited liquor, and Wendy's trapped the green-hatted guy. Hearing Paiming's name, Su Mo's mouth twitched. Although there is nothing wrong with saying this, Wendy's hat is indeed green. But this kind of name always makes people feel malicious. Well, we are here to find the bard. Su Mo nodded and said, generally, bards will sing in taverns to make money, and Angel's Gift is one of the most famous taverns in Mond. Since the other party claims to be the world's #1 bard, he is likely to come here. Of course, this is just a superficial reason. The actual reason is that Wendy likes the dandelion wine in Angel's Gift. As for another famous tavern in Mond, Cat's Tail, because Wendy himself is allergic to cats, it is basically impossible for him to go there. With Wendy's personality, he will definitely drink in the best tavern. After approaching the door of the tavern, they immediately heard a melodious piano sound. It was like a breeze blowing through the forest. The lively and jumping melody made people's hearts calm down. Hearing this piano sound, Su Mo immediately felt certain. It seems that he is lucky to find this guy directly. Push the door and enter. In front of the tavern sign, the bard, like a wind elf, is singing a ballad from an unknown time. The strings of the harp were plucked, and the guests in the entire tavern lowered their voices. It seemed that they were all immersed in his singing. Wow, he looks so popular. Paimon was startled and couldn't help but lower his voice. Let's wait for him to finish singing. Chapter 88. Su Mo had no intention of disturbing Wendy. He brought Ying and Paimon to the bar. At this time, Paimon and Ying noticed the wine list on the bar. Dandelion wine, apple cider. The prices of various specialty drinks are not low. However, if you don't buy a whole bottle, but just one cup, it's not too expensive. The two girls' eyes immediately lit up, regardless of their incalculable age. In fact, neither Paimon nor Ying would be sold alcohol to them anywhere because they were always considered underage. Unexpectedly, Su Mo would be taken to the tavern this time. Curious, the two of them looked at each other excitedly. Then he waved to the bartender, whispered, "Hello, we need a cider. I want to try dandelion wine." The bartender Charles looked at the two girls with sparkling eyes and covered his head with a headache. "Sorry, our pub does not serve alcoholic drinks to minors. Maybe you can try juice." Well, Paimon sighed regretfully. She knew it couldn't go so smoothly. Ying still wanted to struggle. "Actually, I'm an adult," she said seriously. Counting the time, she was sealed and asleep. Not only is he an adult, he can be regarded as the ancestor of everyone here. However, the bartender Charles glanced at the childish Ying and saw clearly the childlike curiosity about alcohol in her eyes. He sighed and held his forehead. "Same as you. There are more than 100 children a year who come here to pretend that they are old enough when they are only 14 or 15 years old. Do you think I will believe it?" As a professional bartender, he has his own principles. Besides, what if he violated the basic rules of the tavern and sold alcohol to children? Not to mention that the Knights of the West Wind will not let him go. His boss Dialek won't let him go either. So, just give up on this idea. If you really want to drink, you can try raspberry mint drink or apple stuffing. Although non-alcoholic, both are popular as drinks. The bartender, Charles, had a non-negotiable expression, recommended juice to both of them. Well, Ying, who also failed to persuade her, looked at each other regretfully with Paimon. Then he shook his head and gave up. "Then give me a glass of apple juice. I want a raspberry mint drink." The two of them ordered their drinks. The two of them were a little disappointed at first. After taking a sip of the drink that was served through a straw, My eyes immediately lit up. This juice tastes really good. Traveler, I can do this too. Although I couldn't get a drink. But they were very satisfied to be able to drink such delicious juice. Just as the two of them were happily tasting the drinks in the cups, suddenly I heard the bartender's voice. Here's your order of ice-cold dandelion wine. Follow the sound and look. The bartender Charles was passing a glass of ice-cold dandelion wine to Su Mo. In addition, an ice bucket was brought over. In the ice bucket, there is a whole bottle of dandelion wine. Too cunning. Why can you drink Su Mo? Paimon originally thought his raspberry mint drink was delicious. He immediately threw away the juice in his hand and approached Su Mo. He looked indignant. Maybe it's because I'm an adult, right? Su Mo looked at the two people in front of him amusedly. Paimon looked indignant and crossed his arms over his chest. Lianing also put her hands on her hips, looking like she couldn't let Su Mo go just like that. Not too cute at all. Protest. Paimon waved his little fist. Su Mo, you can see clearly that he's not much older than a traveler, right? But just a few years is the difference between adulthood and non-adulthood. Su Mo spread his hands and took out his adventurer registration certificate. By the way, I have documents proving that I am an adult. When leveling up as an adventurer, you need to fill in your age. Su Mo is an adult himself, so he naturally fills it out truthfully. Catherine raised no objection at the time. After all, men at this age cannot see much difference. I didn't expect it to be of use in a place like this. Misstep. Seeing Su Mo actually use this move, Ing immediately patted his head, looking a little regretful. If I had known, I would have filled in my age to 18. It was obviously such a good opportunity. Why didn't I think of this at the time? Charles at the bar next to him was speechless. Do you think I am deaf? Discussing fake age in front of me? And, with your appearance, even the Adventurers Association won't let you lie about your age to this extent. The bartender Charles directly exposes Ying's fantasy. That's right. Paimon looked at Ying's face and nodded in agreement. Even if the traveler told others that he was over several hundred years old, no one would believe it except Su Mo, right? After all, no matter the appearance or figure, they all look like developing girls. She doesn't look like an adult at all. If she had the body of a big sister like Jean or Lisa, the bartender probably wouldn't ask her age at all. Hearing Paimon's words, Ing immediately retorted, I'm not hundreds of years old. After saying that, she secretly glanced at Su Mo. As a girl, she is very sensitive to age. And it's not my fault that I can't grow up. She looked down at her body and was a little discouraged. How many years has she entered the puberty period? She couldn't remember it herself. It would take at least dozens or hundreds of years for her to really become an adult. For the first time in her life, Ing began to worry about her growth, seeing that the two girls here finally accepted their fate and stopped asking for drinks. Bartender Charles left here to serve other guests. Su Mo, who was on the side, tasted the dandelion wine in front of him with some curiosity. It was refreshing and not very strong, but the taste was very unique, even for someone like him who didn't drink much. I can also feel the charm of dandelion wine. Chapter 89. Paimon made a reluctant sound. He glanced at the mint drink in his cup. He took another look at the clear wine in Sumo's cup. After shaking his little head for a while, a good idea suddenly occurred to her. Traveler, let's exchange drinks. Paimon suddenly pulled Ing enthusiastically. Huh? Do you want to try Paimon? Ing glanced at her blankly, and then handed the stuffed apple directly over. After Paimon took a bite, he immediately handed his mint drink to Ing. Travelers, come and taste my drink. Huh? No need. Ingzhen wanted to refuse, but Paimon continued to pester him. Try it. Saying this, Paimon turned his eyes to Su Mo. I heard that there is an ancient oath in Liu called the Liyuan Three Brothers. Those who decide to go together in this life, and this life will mix their drinks together and then drink them. In this case, the oaths they come down from will be protected by the Rock King. We can also try this. However, the drinks don't taste good when mixed together. It's okay for everyone to have a sip of each other's drinks, right? As soon as he said this, the drunkard's intention was not to drink. Ing immediately understood what Paimon meant. Ahem! It turns out that it is indeed a very mysterious oath. She took a sip of Paimon's mint drink. Then, he also turned his eyes to Su Mo. If that's the case, for our future travels, it's best to let the Rock King come to witness our vows. Su Mo, what do you think? Ing crazily hinted. That's right, Su Mo, if you complete this vow, we will be together forever, right? Paimon also played the drum. While watching the insincere conversation between the two, his eyes were fixed on the wine glass in his hand. Su Mo couldn't help but feel a little funny. Are you going to go to this extent just for a glass of wine? He said it as if he wouldn't let them drink this glass of wine. It's like he's leaving the team. I'll take it, but you can only drink a little. Su Mo waved his hand in compromise. Anyway, the alcohol content of dandelion wine is not high. If it's just a small sip, it should be fine. Great! I knew Su Mo was the best to me. After receiving a positive reply, Paimon cheered and immediately came over. Ingyi came over silently, staring at Su Mo with shining eyes. Noticed that Charles the bartender wasn't looking this way. Su Mo handed over the wine glass. Only one sip per person, he warned. Pai Ming and Ing nodded. Under Su Mo's supervision, he obediently took a sip of dandelion wine. It tastes a little weird. Paimon felt the aroma of the wine. Is this dandelion wine? It doesn't taste very good. Compared to this, she actually prefers Ying's apple filling. It's sweet and delicious, but it has a special scent, Ing said after thinking about it for a while. This was her first time drinking alcohol. Therefore, except that I am not used to alcohol, I feel pretty good in other aspects. I even wanted to take another bite. See Ying's expectant eyes. Su Mo struck her head directly with a knife. No, it's just one bite, no more. If the bartender finds out, we will be kicked out. Hear him say that, Inkai returned to his position with some reluctance. At this time, a slightly familiar voice came. If you were discovered, you might be banned from this pub in the future. So, if you want me to keep it a secret, just treat me to a drink too, right? A bard who looked like a wind elf emerged from nowhere. Then he chuckled and asked Su Mo for confidentiality fees. Su Mo was not surprised by his appearance. Finally took the bait. It is indeed a windy trap. Then he brought over a whole bottle of dandelion wine in the ice bucket that he ordered just now. After seeing this bottle of wine, Bard Wendy's eyes immediately lit up. It is estimated that even if the Knights of the West Wind come to arrest him, he will not leave. 094 get down to business. Barbados Paimon was startled by the sudden sound. Noticing that it was the cuckold bard, Paimon became even more dissatisfied after hearing his words. Hey, singer, you're blackmailing me. Although I don't think dandelion wine tastes good. But Paimon himself only tasted a small sip. Why does this singer want to drink? It's totally a blackmail. Huh? Do you mean to refuse? Wendy blinked, her blue pupils full of smiles. If this kind of thing spreads, not only this tavern but all taverns in Mondstadt may shut you out. Well, Paimon was speechless upon hearing this. Such a serious consequence can be solved by just buying me a glass of dandelion wine. Don't you think it's very profitable? Wendy asked with a chuckle. That being said, it does make sense. Follow Wendy's train of thought. Paimon couldn't help but nod his head, thinking that the street singers seemed to be right. As expected of emergency food, their IQ is usually low. Seeing that Paimon was almost convinced, Su Mo couldn't help but complain. You idiot, in this kind of thing, as long as you don't admit it, no one can prove that you really drank, right? For an old-fashioned person like him. Naturally, he would not be easily frightened by Wendy. You said they drank secretly? Where is the evidence? Where are the photos? Why are you paying attention to this? Are you plotting against the children? As long as you know how to take the initiative, you can directly ask the other party. Yes, yes. The silly Paimon finally reacted. Then he looked at Wendy with a smug look. Anyway, you don't have any evidence. I'm not afraid. 200 hearing this, Wendy sighed. I'm just trying to keep your secret. Why do you doubt me so much? A look of regret on his face. If Su Mo hadn't noticed that he had been secretly glancing at the wine in his hand, he almost believed it. If you just want a drink, I'd be happy to buy you a glass. Su Mo smiled and opened the bottle. Chapter 90, then he poured it into a new empty cup and handed it to Wendy. Wendy naturally couldn't resist the temptation. He took the dandelion wine and sat on the other side of Su Mo. It seems like you have something to ask me about, right? Wendy is not stupid either. Naturally, he could tell that Su Mo had something to do with him. And he was just right. I'm also very interested in Su Mo. The power to control the wind does not come from the eye of God. When Su Mo used the power of Lord of the Sky for the first time as the god of wind, he felt it. The man in front of me is definitely someone who can change the world. Its importance may even be higher than being a traveler. So no matter what, you have to understand it. There is indeed something for you. Su Mo nodded. Ing and I are currently looking for her brother Sora. And Sora was taken away by a strange god. For this reason, we want to search for the 7 gods. Our first stop is Mondstadt. The reason why I'm looking for you is because of the wind god Barbados. When he said the last words, Su Mo looked directly into Wendy's eyes, and his words were meaningful. After, Wendy smiled softly as if she didn't know anything. Want to find the 7 gods? How interesting. It's a pity that the wind god Barbados has been away from the world for many years, and no one knows where he has gone. Liyue's rock god and Daoju's thunder god are still there. If you want to find gods, it's better to look for them. It won't be the god of wind. As soon as he opened his mouth, he pushed the matter to Zhongli, an old fisherman. Su Mo had no intention of exposing him directly. I've heard about the wind god. This free and irresponsible god must be sleeping soundly somewhere. You can't do anything serious at first sight. After complaining openly and openly, Su Mo's voice changed. The reason why I'm looking for you is mainly because of the giant dragon, also known as the wind demon dragon. Oh, you mean Tevelin? When he was a little curious, what are you looking for him for? Tevelin. Is this the name of the wind demon dragon? Paimon on the side scratched his head after hearing this. Obviously, others call it the giant dragon or the wind demon dragon, but you call it Tevelin. How does it feel? You look so familiar with that big guy. Paimon, who has always been silly, unexpectedly realized this keenly. Hey, Wendy smiled and did not answer the question. Su Mo continued, even if we can't contact Fengshen, we still want to contact the Knights of the West Wind and ask them to find traces of Ying's brother. For this, we need certain achievements to show sufficient value. And recently, the Feng Malong incident has been a big deal, so at this point, Su Mo stopped. However, when he already understood what he meant, do you want to gain the gratitude of the Knights by dealing with the Wind Demon Dragon? His expression remained unchanged, but his eyes became slightly turbulent. It was hard for him to say anything wrong about Su Mo's plan. After all, the Wind Demon Dragon does threaten people's lives. But if Su Mo really plans to do this, that was definitely not what he wanted to see. So, I thought about it for a while. Wendy said, the Wind Demon Dragon was actually one of the 4 Wind Guardians of Mondstadt. Wouldn't it be very pitiful if Feng Malong's rampage was not due to betrayal, but because of other people's manipulation? I think that instead of conquering the Wind Demon Dragon, we should explore the truth behind the matter a little bit. In this case, after solving the problem, you may receive more thanks. Wendy hinted desperately. He didn't want Su Mo to take a directly hostile approach. Tverin is his kin. Wendy didn't want to see her family members killed by Somo's knife. What you say does make sense. Su Mo pondered for 2 seconds and then said, after all, the Wind Demon Dragon was Mondstadt's former patron saint. It might not be a good idea to attack it directly. However, I have no way to communicate with Tverin. If we can't reach an agreement, we can only take action forcefully. When he said the last sentence, he sighed, a look of helplessness. Hear what he said. Wendy pretended to be calm and took a sip of wine. The hand holding the wine glass was trembling slightly. He was a little panicked. If the Su Mo in front of him was just an ordinary Eye of God holder, he wouldn't be too worried. There are not many human beings who can defeat Tevelin. There are very few that can be killed. Yet he knew. The Su Mo in front of him did have this ability. The power to control the celestial phenomena in one breath is comparable to that of a god. The degree of expression alone is equivalent to the superposition of the god of wind and the god of thunder. Even he didn't know how much power was actually hidden. However, after bidding farewell to the Wind Demon Dragon Tevelin yesterday, Wendy carefully explored the place where Su Mo tried out his powers. The conclusion drawn is, this man at least had power comparable to his own in his prime. If the current Wind Demon Dragon Tevelin were to face him, Seriously, I can't even get through one round. If Su Mo and Tevrin really meet, if the two sides accidentally fail to communicate well, it is very likely his follower will be gone. So, after thinking carefully, Wendy responded immediately. Don't worry about this. I'm here, and I can definitely communicate well with Tevrin. I'm the best bard in the world. You can trust me in this regard. So, before you know Tevrin's problem in detail, it's best not to be too rude to Tevrin. Hearing Wendy say this, Su Mo pondered for a moment, as if he was weighing something. After a few seconds, he nodded. Okay, I'll leave it to you in this regard. It seems that his expression is a little reluctant. However, in fact, Su Mo smiled very happily in his heart. His strategy was completely successful, pretending not to understand the matter of the wind demon dragon, and expressing his consideration of using force to solve the problem. In this case, Wendy will inevitably worry that Su Mo will attack Tevrin. In order to prevent this, he had to take the initiative to let Su Mo participate in his plan. It can be said that Su Mo went from being passive to being active all of a sudden. Originally, he came to find Wendy. Now, it became Wendy who had to come to find him. The offense and defense were instantly switched. No problem, please trust me. Wendy patted his chest, took a sip of wine, and immediately agreed. After saying that, he realized that something was wrong. He always tricked others into doing things for him. Why is it the other way around this time? And he became the one helping Su Mo. What's going on? Is there something wrong? Chapter 91, Su Mo smiled slightly beside him, hiding his identity and reputation. Those who deceive others will always be deceived by others. This is retribution. 095, demonic forbidden. Idolatry, the possibility of becoming a demon god. Su Mo, who was in the world of Genshin Impact, tricked Wendy into joining the team. And when preparing to participate in the Wind Demon Dragon incident, the Forbidden World, 20 years later, Su Mo, who finally got his golden finger, returned to the academy city he was familiar with. Although Golden Finger did not directly give him invincible power, but at least it gave Su Mo hope. With his original strength, it is absolutely impossible for him to get involved in the big events that will follow. Even in the front, you need to be extremely careful to deal with it. You know, for the many bosses that appeared in front of them, even though they didn't get there early, their strength is not compromised. Be it Gabriel, who comes in the Fall of Angels, or Oreos in the Misawa School incident, their strength is not as simple as imagined. At least, with Sumo's previous strength, it can't be said that he can handle it. But now, after sharing the strength of Su Mo from other worlds, he already has explosive star-level combat power, although it is nothing to a demon-level existence. But for the Third World War set off by the fire on the right, he already has the power to change the situation. And, compared with these strengths, there is another point that is more important to him. Hope. Even if it is impossible to have a multiverse-level Su Mo, even the Su Mo who appeared was not as powerful as the demon god. Even Su Mo, who appears later, is relatively weak. He was by no means powerless to resist. Because, as long as there are enough Su Mo with various strange attributes will definitely appear. Just like Su Mo in the Pokémon world this time, these strange powers may be for Su Mo in other worlds. Just one more way to deal with the enemy. But for Su Mo in the Forbidden World. But it is very likely that it is the latter to complete the magic ritual and the magic of the Forbidden World. But he has the potential to reach the level of the demon god. Su Mo couldn't help but mutter. Roman Orthodoxy, the front wind in the right seat of God, is ordinary people. Through angel spells, he was instantly upgraded to angel-level combat power. The water in the rear is a born double saint. The Queen of England can use her bloodline to wield power comparable to that of an archangel. In the Forbidden World, sometimes, no matter how hard you work, it can't compare to the gap in talent. And talent is often completely fixed from the first moment of birth. It's like Academy City's literacy judgment. The upper limit of superpower levels has nothing to do with effort. It's something that has been fixed from the very beginning. However, for Su Mo, this is completely different. However, his talents are changing and can be superimposed. Su Mo's physiques from different worlds can be summarized in him. Perhaps for Su Mo in other worlds, physical strength is just a simple superposition. But in the magic theory of the forbidden world, due to the principle of idolatry, many things are not the same. For example, he shared the physique of Su Mo from the earthly world. It is entirely possible to construct your own technique through the theory of idol worship, because Su Mo is indeed Hestia's de facto dependent. Borrow this. Regarding many of Hestia's magic spells, if used by Su Mo, their power will be greatly increased. In addition, many mythological spells can also be displayed using the power of the God Killer. It can be said, he is among the many Su Mo at present, the person who can best use the power of sharing his physique. However, the reason why he didn't say this in the foggy space before, not that I wanted to hide it. After all, those are all you, there is no need to hide them. It is not difficult for the cells in other worlds to deduce the situation of Su Mo, who is imprisoned through the knowledge in his mind. The reason why I don't say it is because insufficient knowledge. Su Mo sighed. Lives in Academy City all year round. He is actually the most familiar with his superpowers. As for magic, it was something I only started learning last year. Don't look at the fact that he has a very solid grasp of the theoretical foundation of magic. Many magic spells are also at your fingertips. However, that is entirely the result of being supported by the massive resources of the Roman Orthodox Church. In fact, the spells he can use are still relatively simple and basic church spells. He didn't know much about other magical knowledge. After all, the Roman Orthodox Church is also a Catholic. 0. Ask for flowers. 0. The Church emphasizes that faith in the Lord cannot be betrayed, no matter how special Sumo's identity is. If you write a letter and tell the senior officials of the Roman Orthodox Church that you want to learn the magical knowledge of Greek mythology, I'm afraid that the next day, he will be regarded as a blasphemous traitor. The big forces are indeed unfriendly on this point. Su Mo was not allowed to test the bottom line of their beliefs. And Su Mo. But he has always been a realist and doesn't care about the source of power. Good thing. Next, Index should come back to Academy City. I lack a lot of magic knowledge. I can get it from her, even if we don't count the 130,000 magic books. The various knowledge Index possesses alone is very tempting to Su Mo. If he can absorb this knowledge, Su Mo feels that he may also be able to make great progress in magic. At that time, he can go to the Misty Space to show off. Be a big shot for once. Just as Su Mo was thinking about magic, a familiar voice sounded beside him. Insufficient knowledge? It's rare to see teachers Su Mo sigh like this. Has something hit you? If you lose confidence because of this, I don't mind lending my shoulder to you. The speaker is a girl with honey-like blonde hair and stars in her eyes. One of the LV5 psychics in Academy City. Psychological mastery, Shokuho Misaki. At this moment, the two are in a separate small office. To be precise, it was in the private office of a teacher at Tokuwadai Junior High School. Shoko Misaki was a student, and Su Mo was a teacher specially invited by Tokuwadai Junior High School at a high price. The course he taught was superpower development and application. For a junior high school like Tokuwadai Junior High School that wanted to compete with other schools for school rankings. Chapter 92 inviting Su Mo to give lectures was almost a must-do. After all, competitors are invited, and if they don't do so, they may fall one step behind. Under this involution mechanism, Su Mo's salary for lecturing in recent years can be said to have repeatedly reached the upper limit. The amount paid by the school surprised him even a little bit. 096 The conflict between Shokuho Misaki and Misaka Makoto. Shoko Misaki looked at Su Mo with a teasing smile. He puffed up his chest slightly. His eyes were slightly expectant. Seeing her like this, Su Mo shook his head. Let's forget it. If other teachers saw me, I would probably be mistaken for a pervert who attacks students. Especially when the target is a junior high school student. I don't want to be regarded as a lolita control. After all, he is a teacher. There is still a certain professional ethics. After hearing his words, Shokuho Misaki curled her lips in dissatisfaction. My figure is no longer a lolita. Besides, I'm not the same person I was a year ago. As she spoke, she shook the slime on her chest. Looking at this scale, it is really not something that junior high school students can have. Even many high school students can't compare. Saw Shokuho Misaki's movements. Suemo looked at the blonde girl in front of him very carefully. Shokuho Kaoki felt Sumo's gaze. Immediately puff out your chest with pride. The smile on his face is also full of confidence. After a few seconds, Suemo spoke. I've always wanted to ask, how did you grow from where you were a year ago to this size? Could it be that it's really as rumored? You used your superpower to change the secretion of hormones in your body? He asked with great concern for 217. A year ago, when he first met and got to know Shokuho Misaki. Shokuho Misaki is completely different from what she is now. At that time, the smoothness of her chest was not even as smooth as Misaka Makoto's now. It's almost to the point where I want to cry. However, it was only for 1 year. Shokuho Misaki has quickly grown from a chopping block-type character to the scale it is now. This growth rate is simply unheard of, even if she's growing taller. This speed is too incredible. Therefore, Suemo has always suspected that Shokuho Misaki used his superpower to interfere with the secretion of hormones in his body, thus controlling his body's shape. After all, the essence of Shokuho Misaki's superpower, psychological control, is close to manipulating water and various hormones in the human brain. It is not a magical operation involving the soul and spirit. Well, Shokuho Misaki, who originally had a confident smile on his face. After hearing what Suemo said, his expression immediately stiffened. Teacher Suemo, it's not a good behavior to pry into a girl's secrets. Her eyes drifted to one side, and she immediately changed the topic. See her look. Suemo showed a helpless expression. He reached out his hand and gently tapped Shokuho Misaki on the head. I'm not criticizing you either. I have never objected to using superpowers to transform oneself. However, if you have time to devote your energy to controlling your figure, I think you should pay more attention to your physique. Lest you come to me to skip class next time in physical education class. Shokuho Misaki is very talented in controlling superpowers. Psychological mastery. This includes mind reading, brainwashing, memory erasure, hallucinations, telepathy, etc. It is like a Swiss Army knife of abilities, and it is quite complicated to master. But she has a better grasp of this. With the help of the remote control, fine control can also be achieved. However, only in terms of physical strength. She's a complete loser. After sprinting 100 meters, I would stand there panting, and it would take a long time to recover. If placed in the Xinyue World Heroic Spirit Assessment System, Shokuho Misaki's endurance is definitely EX. It is too weak to be measured. Thinking it was because of her physical weakness, she basically wouldn't participate in the physical education classes at school. Every time I use the ability of psychological mastery to skip class, it can be said that he is a habitual offender. Because of this, Suemo had educated her on this point many times. After all, superpowers are not something that can be relied on at all times. If your physical fitness is too poor, many times, even at LV5, it is possible to overturn. After all, this is Academy City. There are many weapons specifically developed for ability users. However, regarding this, girls are cuter if they are softer. I don't want to be that muscular idiot Misaka Makoto. Shokuho Misaki covered the part that Suemo had hit, and then complained in a low voice. Hearing this, Suemo was speechless. Shokuho Misaki and Misaka Makoto have different personalities, which has been going on for a long time. So he thought about it and said nothing. However, at this moment, a very low-pressure voice came from the door. Shokuho Misaki, getting ready to knock on the door. But unexpectedly, she heard Shokuho Misaki complaining about Misaka Makoto, who was a muscle idiot, and her pretty face suddenly darkened. You bastard, you actually secretly said bad things about me in front of the teacher. Misaka Makoto had an angry expression on her face. I just happened to come here, and I could hear Shokuho Misaki saying bad things about me. What about when I didn't come here? What else did Shokuho Misaki say that I didn't know? If you think so, it will make people feel that the other party has said bad things about you many times. For Misaka Makoto, this is the most unacceptable behavior of snitching. It's Misaka classmate being caught complaining behind her back. Shokuho Misaki's face was not panicked at all. Eavesdropping on people's conversations is not what a good student should do. Not only that, she also skillfully turned the tables. Then, she took out a remote control from her school bag. It seems that it is better for you to forget this memory. As she said this, Shokuho Misaki pressed the remote control. The superpower, mental control, was also activated, trying to directly manipulate the other party's memory. However, crack! A spark flashed near Misaka Makoto's forehead. It was as if there was a conflict between superpowers. The control ability that had always been invincible was directly invalidated. TSK, is it still like this? Shokuho Misaki shook her head in disappointment. For some reason, her ability has always been ineffective against Misaka Makoto. Every time she used it, it would be blocked by the unconscious electromagnetic field around Misaka Makoto's body. So, she never succeeded in controlling Misaka Makoto once. This was also one of the beginnings of the conflict between the two. And Misaka Makoto, seeing that Shokuho Misaki actually used that brainwashing ability on her. Chapter 93, even if it doesn't take effect. It was enough to ignite the anger in her heart. Blue-white electric light flashed in her bangs. You guy, I won't let you go no matter what I say today. The words just fell. Misaka Makoto fired a lightning bolt directly at Shokuho Misaki. The lightning gun speed is close to the speed of light. It can be said that once you see it, it is almost impossible to avoid it. This time, Misaka Makoto specially adjusted the power. The scheming woman in front of him must be electrified to the point of twitching like a frog. And Misaka Makoto saw this. Shokuho Misaki, on the other hand, took things easy and looked fearless. Misaka-san is so brave to use her superpowers in the teacher's office. She tapped her lips and said 0, as if it had nothing to do with her. It's not your turn to speak. Who used the superpower first? Misaka Makoto complained angrily. Then I did feel a little regretful. Unlike Shokuho Misaki, she has always been the type of obedient student who respects her teachers and abides by school rules. Using superpowers in the teacher's office is indeed prohibited at Tokuwadai School. Fine. This attack should not affect Teacher Su Mo. Moreover, even if it is affected, nothing will happen. If you want to ask why, you two stop arguing. Su Mo's voice finally sounded. Facing the lightning gun in front of him, he waved his hand without raising his head. Directly scatter the lightning gun and disappear. The man in front of me is the third person with superpowers standing at the top of Academy City, level 5. Gravity manipulation. Su Mo, I'll spare you two this time. If you violate the school rules again, next time, I will tell you the dormitory. Su Mo threatened. Hearing this, Misaka Makoto was suddenly shocked. Oh, please don't. He immediately bowed to Su Mo and resigned. Although the warden of their dormitory is incompetent. But because of his stern attitude and superb physical skills, he has always been feared by girls as the hidden LV6. Every girl who doesn't go back to the dormitory on time. They were all treated horribly by the dormitory master. This is true even if Misaka Makoto is LV5. I was in awe of this warden. Therefore, when Su Mo mentioned this, she immediately became scared. Shoko Misaki on the other side. The attitude is completely different. If Teacher Su Mo tells the dormitory master, they will have no place to live. She looked at Su Mo, pretending to be pitiful. When the time comes, Teacher Su Mo can't let people live on the street. As a teacher, should I take the student in at this time and give her a warm home? I heard Shokuho Misaki's words. Su Mo didn't have time to say anything. Misaka Makoto was already excited. No matter how you say it, Teacher Su Mo is of the opposite sex. Even teachers and students, such behavior is absolutely unacceptable, even if they are still junior high school students. This line must not be crossed. Misaka Makoto's words attracted a very dissatisfied look from Shokuho Misaki. This is between Teacher Su Mo 3.0 and me. It has nothing to do with you, right? No. I think it is necessary to remind you about the school atmosphere. Misaka Makoto competes with her. The two looked at each other with high spirits. Sparks seemed to collide between the eyes. At this time, dingling bell, the alarm bell in the corridor rang music. Misaka Makoto thought of something and suddenly looked panicked. By the way, I'm here to remind Teacher Su Mo about class. After remembering this incident, She couldn't help but glare at Shokuho Misaki. If it weren't for this guy, I wouldn't have forgotten the important thing. It's time for class. Sumo remembered this. However, he didn't panic. For the students, it is a happy thing for the teacher to come late. So let them be happy for a while longer. Well, it seems to be like this usually. Misaka Makoto nodded in agreement. However, Teacher Sumo's courses are different and very popular with everyone. They are all waiting for you to go there early. Otherwise, they wouldn't let me come over to remind you. Sumo's courses are also very popular among students, especially in Tokuwadai, a girls' school. It can be said that male teachers are extremely rare. Coupled with Sumo's handsome appearance, he is naturally very popular among students. 0974 Basic Forces, Electromagnetic Interaction. The most popular thing is not Teacher Sumo's courses, but Teacher Su Mo himself. Shokuho Misaki said to the point. No one understands the thoughts of these so-called eldest ladies in Tokuwadai school better than her. Snort. It sounds mysterious, but in fact she is just an ordinary girl. There are almost no men in the school garden. These young ladies are very curious about men in the outside world. As an all-girls school, almost all teachers are also women. A young man like Su Mo is like an oasis in the desert, which makes people suddenly curious. And because of Sumo's status as LV5, he also has a handsome appearance. Curiosity and admiration mixed together. It is easy to get the favor of these girls. Sumo has not been teaching in Tokuwadai for a long time. However, he has already gathered quite a lot of fans. Even if Shokuho Misaki keeps a close eye on him, he can't stop so many people. Sumo has received quite a few love letters during this period. Fortunately, he didn't respond to any of them. This made Shokuho Misaki relieved. I don't deny this. Misaka Makoto nodded. She also knew that the girls in the same class seemed to have formed some kind of fanatical fan group. It seemed to be a spontaneously formed Sumo faction or something like that. Naturally, I understand that this teacher is very popular. However, there are actually quite a few people who like Sumo's course. As she said that, Misaka Makoto stole a glance at Sumo compared with other classmates. She is a rare person who likes Sumo's lectures more than those boring love topics. As a teacher invited by various prestigious schools, Sumo's teaching ability is unquestionable. In many aspects, she inspired Misaka Makoto, although they were both at LV5. However, in terms of ability development, she was much more open-minded than Misaka Makoto. She learned a lot. Therefore, in terms of knowledge, Misaka Makoto respected this teacher very much. Really? Sumo glanced at Misaka Makoto and then said casually, "Then I will test you later, huh?" Misaka Makoto was stunned. Chapter 90 for the expression on his face suddenly turned bitter. Why did I say this so much just now? If she had a time machine, she would love to go back a few seconds and cover her mouth. However, there is no regret in the world about taking medicine. Sumo walked slowly from the office to the classroom. Shokuho Misaki and Misaka Makoto followed obediently. Shokuho Misaki was not in a hurry at all. Misaka Makoto knew that it was useless to be anxious. Wait until Sumo arrives at the lecture theater. Already a minute late. It is said to be a ladder classroom, but it is actually much larger than an ordinary ladder classroom. It is generally a large classroom that can accommodate hundreds of people for public speeches or public reports. Because the content of Sumo's lectures is different from the textbook, it is applicable to all grades. Junior high school students of all grades will gather together to listen to classes. This is why there are so many students in each class. It's so slow, teacher. Just walked in the door. I heard the students' complaints. I asked Misaka-san to rush me, but I'm still late. Could it be that you're going to open a small stove for Misaka-san and Shokuho-san again? Hey, Misaka-san won't take the opportunity to sneak away, right? The girls in the class complained all over the place. In the end, his eyes were focused on Misaka Makoto. It seemed that he was looking at some naughty cat who had violated the agreement. Suddenly, cold sweat broke out from Misaka Makoto's back. She doesn't want to be regarded as a love rival by these love brains, etc. When she was about to explain, she suddenly realized something. Why doesn't anyone gather fire and eat bees to prey? Look back. Shokuho Misaki took the remote control and directly gave himself a buff with a low sense of presence. perfectly ignored by everyone. Only Misaka Makoto was left alone, just when she didn't know how to explain it. "Sister, you are not a sneaky cat." Her schoolmate stood up and came to her rescue. "Heizi." Misaka Makoto saw that Shirai Kuriko actually supported her at the critical moment. "I was immediately moved. Although this guy is usually a bit perverted, it's still very reliable at critical moments." Just when she was thinking this, Shirai Kuriko spoke again. "One-sama has made a lifelong promise with Kurikomi. Even if teacher Su Mo is excellent, One-sama will never fall in love with a man. So, there is no need to worry about One-sama. One-sama only likes girls like Kuriko," she declared with pride on her face. Suddenly, the entire lecture theater fell silent. Everyone looked at Misaka Makoto with strange eyes. "Hiss, that's it." The rumors turned out to be true. The original suspicion and hostility in their eyes completely disappeared. If Misaka Makoto likes a girl, there is absolutely no need for them to worry. That's all. Judging from the results, Shirai Kuriko perfectly rescued Misaka Makoto. Only, Misaka Makoto herself didn't seem very happy. "Hey, Z." He looked at this lily schoolgirl with murderous eyes. Misaka Makoto's forehead flashed with lightning. "You guys are talking about things that are and are not available again. Who likes girls?" A burst of dazzling lightning struck Shirai Kuriko's body. "Ah, the whipping that One-sama loves?" Shirai Kuriko let out a skilled sigh. Lying on the ground and twitching, the screams made the girls around them blush. Seeing Misaka Makoto's performance, they were even more certain. What Shirai Kuriko said was indeed true. Otherwise, how could these two people be so skilled? That's all. When Misaka Makoto was still a little confused and ignorant, she was labeled Lily, absolutely trustworthy, and would never seduce teacher Su Mo. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Watching these girls having fun for a while, Su Mo cleared his throat and managed the classroom discipline. The little girls immediately and obediently stopped. The teacher's dignity is still very effective for children of this age. After seeing the scene calm down, Su Mo just started teaching. As one of the first people to develop superpowers, for the essence and skills of superpower development, almost no one knows it better than he does. Soon, the students did not care to appreciate the teacher's handsome appearance and started to pick up the notebook and start taking notes. Even Misaka Makoto and Shoko Misaki are like this. About half an hour later, Su Mo ended the relatively boring but very important ability development matters. Entered the relatively easy ability application chapter. Generally speaking, everyone has only one superpower. In this case, how to develop various application methods for a superpower is the top priority. And to achieve this 217, what we need to rely on most is not hypnosis, injections, and other ability development methods, but scientific knowledge. So saying, Su Mo looked at the students in the audience, and his eyes immediately locked on Misaka Makoto in the front row. I mentioned it as an example in the last lecture. Misaka Makoto-san's ability is essentially electromagnetic control. This is the electromagnetic force, one of the four fundamental forces of modern physics. It can be said that the development potential of this capability is very high, and its application methods are also very wide. It's a superpower that has quite a lot of potential for development. At this point, Su Mo started to name names. Misaka Makoto-kun exists. Misaka Makoto stood up immediately, looking a little nervous. She thought Su Mo had forgotten what happened before. Unexpectedly, teacher Su Mo did not forget it at all. When you say you want to test yourself, you really have to name yourself. Seeing Misaka Makoto's worried look, Su Mo smiled slightly. We mentioned in the last class that light is actually part of electromagnetic waves. This is the physics knowledge you learned in the first grade of junior high school. In this case, the power to manipulate electromagnetic waves can naturally also be used to manipulate light. So, with your ability, you should be able to do this easily. Not only can we attack with lightning and magnetism, but we can also use light to attack. It's been a month since the last class. How about it? Have you developed the power to manipulate light? Chapter 95. He looked at Misaka Makoto and asked inquiringly. Well, Misaka Makoto seemed to be forced to stand. Her movements were very stiff. After hearing Su Mo's inquiry, she immediately showed an anxious expression like a child who forgot to do her homework. 098 positron cannon developed but not fully developed. Misaka Makoto reported with some anxiety. The development route given by Su Mo indeed made her feel very feasible. However, her progress this month is not ideal. This made her a little embarrassed to say it. Hearing this answer, Su Mo was speechless. Where did this kid learn this reply? Said and not said are the same. After thinking for a while, he asked, "Can you create visible light now?" "Can be made." Misaka Makoto nodded. "But just make a little bit. Try it out." Su Mo said with interest. The electromagnetic interaction force, or electromagnetic force for short, is indeed a force with great potential.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.